Well, good evening and welcome to the Pullman City Council meeting. Again, a virtual meeting. This is one meeting that we actually hoped that we were going to be in the City Council chambers. But then with the Public Health Director's directive and some other things that have happened, we decided we'd be virtual again. So we're still hoping that we can get sometime before the end of April, we can get in actually the council chambers and actually have our meeting then. Well, this is the meeting for April 13th, and Mike Urban will be taking roll tonight. So, Mike.
Thank you. Mayor Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Chapman.
Present.
Councilmember McCall. Councilmember Parks.
Here.
Councilmember Records.
Here.
Councilmember Sorensen.
Here.
Councilmember Weller.
Present.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Under announcements tonight, Whitman County moves back to phase 2 on Friday, despite a lot of work trying to keep us in phase 3. And we're certainly not happy about it. Actually, when the governor's office called me yesterday morning when I was driving, we knew the COVID numbers were not good, but at least we knew our hospital numbers we thought would save us. And actually, with a lot of lobbying, which a lot of us did, and we had a personal conversation with the governor. There was a number of us online with him. Talked about the metrics, that 2 of them would be very difficult. 1 metric would be sufficient. They actually listened to us. And on Friday, they announced that 1 metric. And unfortunately, we had 2 metrics that did not work in our favor. But we have had, I know a number of council members have been up on campus. We've watched students being vaccinated there. They've had a good number of students going through that process. We will continue to work with our local businesses, and of course, they're the ones that are hurting the most. And we do know that they've modified the open air requirements, and so we're hoping that that might help a little bit. We know that even at 50%, restaurants were not making any money. It took about 67% occupancy to actually make some money. 25% they're losing. And so one of the things that we need to do during this 3-week period, or if we can get some kind of an appeal process going, is to make sure we support our local businesses the best we possibly can. Other announcements tonight, this is National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, recognizing the contributions to public safety and emergency response. It's also Animal Care and Control Appreciation Week. In 2020, Pullman officers responded to approximately 725 calls for animal-related services throughout the community. Outstanding work for our code enforcement officers. Starting today, you could see some signs up right now on Crestview and Grand Avenue and some other places about the Pullman Arterial Street Resurfacing Project. It started. At least the signs are up and I can see the trucks everywhere. So the project includes grinding and replacing pavement within the roadway, reconstruction curb ramps to current ADA guidelines, constructing 3 permanent traffic calming measures, and other miscellaneous related work. If you want to see more details on it, just go to pullman-wa.gov. Community Action Center is offering Pullman residents financial assistance for any delinquent utility bills. Now, funds are available based on financial need directly from CAC on a first-come, first-served basis until the available grant is depleted. To learn more, just contact CAC, the Community Action Center, 509-334-9147, 334-9147, or you can find them online. Habitat for Humanity of the Palouse has a virtual Beans and Jeans auction. It's going on right now on the website all the way through the 17th with a live event this Saturday at 5:30. We're raising money for this worthwhile cause. It's one of the major concerns of all of us, including the council goals about affordable housing. So Habitat for Humanity has really stepped up and it's really helped in so many ways. So if you want to find out more details, just go do a Google search and just type in Habitat for Humanity for the Palouse and you'll find it right there. During the warming months, there are some changes in the city's water system due to higher water demand during the irrigation season. City crews also do a small amount of fire hydrant flushing to improve water quality during the warmer months. So both of these conditions can cause sediment that has settled out in the water lines to be resuspended. Sediment is typical inert. It results from small particles of rock and soil that are included in the groundwater pumped from city wells. That's what most people just say, hey, my water's brown. So that is one of the reasons for it. It's typical, it's not harmful, it dissipates in a few hours. Residents can run the tap for a little while, and that normally results in cleaning the water. If residents notice dirty water on a regular basis, or if their dirty water does not dissipate fairly quickly, please call our Maintenance and Operations Office at 509 338 3242. That's 3242. We also have that announcement on our website. And we want to thank Eileen McCall for that reminder today. Thank you so much for that. We got that out, and we'll make sure we remind others about it too. At this time, item number C on our agenda is a presentation by the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Washington Cities, Peter King. And this is the time that AWC, which basically is our association, represents all 281 cities in the state of Washington. And we get all kinds of education. We can get training for being leaders. And so with that tonight, I'd like to introduce our CEO, Peter King. Peter?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the invitation to be with you tonight, members of the council. Thanks very much. It kind of goes without saying that I'd rather be with you in Pullman. I'm sure you're getting a little bit tired of Zoom, as am I, as is everyone, but wish I were there. I am here to present the Advanced Certificate of Municipal Leadership to two members of the council this evening. And this is a first for me. This is the first time that I've had the opportunity to present two advanced CMLs in one meeting. So congratulations to Councilmember Wright and Councilmember Chapman. You joined Mayor Johnson, who was awarded his advanced certificate back in 2008. And Councilmember Weller, who was awarded in 2012. So for those of you who may not know much about the CML program, let me give you a little bit of a history. It offers a program for all mayors and council members in all 281 cities and towns to have the opportunity to learn and gain knowledge and skills to effectively operate within the law, which certainly is the 101 of what you all do, to plan, to secure and manage funds, and to foster community and staff relationships. So the program first started back in 1997. So we're almost up to 25 years now offering this to city officials throughout the state. And the basic certificate program requires 30 credits of study in 4 core areas. And the advanced certificate was added later, and that's what we're talking about this evening. It requires an additional 30 credits to be met with AWC or non-AWC courses, plus a community service component. And the community service component really relates to different boards and commissions, whether regional, cities, state boards and commissions that I know many of you contribute your time to. So over the years, about 1,100 elected officials have completed the basic certificate, and we now have about 350 statewide that have completed the advance. So, on average, maybe a dozen city officials statewide earn this award. All of you as elected officials that are on the call are automatically enrolled once you take a course from AWC that has CML attached to it, and we track your credits. So any one of you can go online anytime and see where you are in terms of credits and also the areas in which you've had some training. There are 4 core areas, and as long as you take one course in each of those core areas and meet the 60 credits plus the additional community service, you're eligible to receive the advanced CML. So we continue to expand our online education. Even pre-pandemic, we were moving content online. We realized you're all very busy. It's difficult to travel. So with COVID, that really did accelerate what we have online. Last year's annual conference was totally online, and if you participated in that, you could have earned 10 credits toward the 30 or toward the 60. We're looking at back last summer, we looked at a period in August where we, in 1 week, we had a day-long session on budgeting. We had 2 sessions on race equity leadership. We had a small cities session on CARES Act. Most recently, we did a session with the Director of Health on vaccine enrollment. And we also hosted a 1 hour with Senator Murray and Senator Cantwell. So a lot of contents on our website. Much of it is recorded and available to you to go on and look at, 24/7. The Advanced Certificate Municipal Leadership really acknowledges the continued commitment to education and community service through additional trainings and leadership. So I am with you tonight to acknowledge and congratulate Councilmember Wright and Councilmember Chapman for achieving the advanced CML. So on behalf of AWC President Suing Moody, the Mayor of Twisp, and the AWC Board of Directors, I extend my sincere congratulations to Councilmember Wright and Chapman for your achievement and dedication to continued education on behalf of your community and the citizens of Pullman. If I were there with you, I would offer you a certificate and a lapel pin and a handshake. So we'll do that next time when I have an opportunity to be with you. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for being with us. And goes without saying, go Cougs, because Peter also graduated from
There you
Washington
go.
State University. He's been to Pullman. He knows all about us. Okay. All right. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Our next item tonight is a United Way presentation of Whitman County. I've asked Ann Parks, who is on the board for United Way, to make the introduction tonight of Eric. Okay, Ann?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to start by saying our area has so many issues and none that one individual can address by themselves. That's why for over 90 years, our local United Way of Whitman County has fought for health, education, and financial stability for everyone in our community. We do this by partnering with strong business partners such as SEL and nonprofits like YMCA and Alternatives to Violence to provide help and support in our communities, particularly right now in the times of the wildfires damage that it was done in Malden and the Pine City area. By mobilizing these resources and by inspiring individuals to join to fight against their community's most daunting crisis, we are there at every turn. So with that, I would love to introduce our Executive Director, Eric Frigerin. He is here to provide an update on our work and to share their 2020 annual report. So I present to you, Eric Frigerin.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Ann, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for inviting us here today. I was told I was able to share my screen, but I'm not seeing a share screen button on my.
Did you move your cursor down to bring out down that bottom, the bottom menu?
Sorry, in the transition from the clerk to myself, I was unaware of this, so I've made you co-host, and you should be able to do that now, Eric.
I appreciate it. No worries.
Thank you.
I'm also excited to be meeting in person again when those opportunities are available. Okay. No, but that might be my president who wants to be present as well. So I do apologize. Well, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, Council and Mayor and Ann, for that wonderful introduction. It is always nice to talk and share ideas with the elected leaders of our community, just because you play such a key and intricate role in the success and welfare of our community. So thank you so much. Briefly going over our impact for 2020 and then our continuing work through 2021. Yeah, and here's our mission statement. United Way Whitman County primarily works in 3 areas: health, education.
Maybe you could make that full screen, Eric.
Is it small screen? Oh, sharing the wrong screen. Oh, you saw my cheat sheet notes. How about this one?
Yeah.
Okay, do apologize. And so we work in the areas of health, education, and financial stability. And then also, in 2020, of course, other opportunities to work in other areas like disaster and disaster relief and recovery were also available. And so one of the key takeaway lessons in 2020 was, of course, to be flexible. I'm sure everybody can agree to that. So be flexible, and also don't be afraid to leverage the power of network and resources to solve the really big issues of our community. And once, our board really asked what kind of position we were in 2020, and then, what resources we had, we found out that we were in a really good position to help our community last year. This slide kind of represents the three buckets of our work for the past year. We have our COVID-19 Relief and Recovery Fund, our Community Investment Fund, and then our Wildfire Relief and Recovery Fund. With our COVID-19 Relief Fund, many nonprofits were left out of the relief provided by state, local, and national governments, and they were struggling with keeping with their services. So we started a fund in order to help with that. Childcare was particularly important. A need, along with payroll assistance from the decreased donations of our local nonprofit partners. Many of our nonprofits, they rely on in-person fundraising events for their budget. And unfortunately with COVID, they weren't able to do so. And then, part of our work for the past 3 or 4 months has been with the Wildfire Relief and Recovery Fund in the Malden and Pine City areas. And, just like to remind everybody about the Labor Day fires, the residents of Malden and Pine City, they were given probably no more than 15 minutes to pack everything and leave from the approaching fires. Approximately 125 homes were completely lost. And sadly, Malden and Pine City they're one of the most impoverished populations in Whitman County. Not only did they lose their homes, but also their property, and a large portion of them were uninsured or underinsured. And in September, we sprang into action. We were asked by the county to work as the fiscal agent for Malden and Pine City long-term recovery. And we are very proud to say that over the course of since September, we've raised close to $500,000 for the long-term recovery of the area. What's really great about this fund is that in addition to this fund, as well as the COVID-19 Relief and Recovery Fund, is that 100% of it goes to those who need assistance. We take no admin fee whatsoever with these two funds. And so 100% is going towards where it needs to go. About a quarter of the money so far has been given and used to help with storage for food and other necessary items. And then also a quarter of the money has recently been given out as direct disbursements to survivors of the Malden and Pine City fires. To date, the residents thought that that they would be receiving FEMA assistance. Unfortunately, that was not approved. Also, they were told that they would qualify for small business administration loans, but sadly, most of the residents don't make enough money to qualify for those loans. And so, long-term recovery is indeed long-term, and United Whitman County is dedicated to helping the area of the course of 5 to 10 years throughout the course of the recovery process. Now, what's going to be happening with the remaining wildfire recovery funds is those funds are going to be used for the unmet needs table, who works really closely with disaster case managers and other volunteer entities to determine case priority of who can get assistance from those available funds moving forward. Some JIT information, there was some 2 sets of keys that were given to 2 families in Malden. These homes were built by a Amish group out of Montana. They were built for approximately $50,000. And I know that the community is looking for more opportunities to build affordable housing just like that. So if you would like more information on the recovery process, please find your way to pinecreekcommunityrestoration.org for continuing information on that. Kind of the last bucket of our work for the past year has been our community investment fund, and that community investment fund is really the bread and butter of the work that we do. We provide annual grants for nonprofits that work in the areas of health, education, and financial stability. And in order to be eligible for those community investment funds, there's 2 qualifications. One, you need to be a 501c3 nonprofit operating in Whitman County, and your work also has to help in the areas of health, education, and financial stability. And so our 2021 grants are going to be opening actually next week. And so please, if any of you, I know many of us wear multiple hats, but talk to your nonprofit partners and make them aware of these community investment funds that are going to be available next week. And then here's our list of our partner agencies from 2020. We have about, looks like, I think quite a number of them, and we hope to continue working with them and include more moving forward. Just want to take our time and highlight one of our important key partners. Many of you know the Community Child Care Center. They've been operating in the area since 1970, providing early Head Start programs, early child care assistance programs, in addition to normal child care. And United Way partners with them for social emotional growth opportunities and learning experiences for youth and small children. And here's a couple of pictures. There are two boys at their St. James location, pre-COVID, so there's no masks involved. We have a picture of their room here that has separated into different areas: art, math, even dramatic play. So lots of different activities and stimulation for these kids at the Community Child Care Center. A little bit more of our partners and our impact. We've worked with Palouse River Counseling to help pay for outpatient chemical dependency services. It's unfortunate that many of these services are not covered by Medicare, in addition to those intensive outpatient programs that are not covered by a lot of insurance. We also work very hard to promote the work that Palouse River Counseling does in the areas of mental health and substance abuse, particularly mental health, because that is such a great focus right now in our county. With Alternatives to Violence of the Palouse, we support their core infrastructure in order to promote and make sure that their mission is carried out county-wide, as well as supporting their staff and delivery times. And then with the YMCA of the Palouse, we worked very hard to make sure that no child is turned away from their after-school programs. They charge a fee, and we want to make sure that no child is turned away from their inability to pay those fees for those programs. And then I'd just like to kind of close with a question on why choose United Way instead of donating directly to, YMCA or Alternatives Violence of the Palouse. It's a great question. One of the reasons why you should give to United Way is that the money stays local. A gift to United Way Whitman County is really an effective way to make sure that, help is given in a community where it is needed most. Your dollar stays in the community, and it helps in a variety of different ways, from senior services with the Circles of Caring to supporting youth programs with the YMCA. Your generosity really helps make our region, county, Palouse, city of Pullman a really better place for us all. So not only does your money stay local, but it's held accountable. The investment of your hard-earned dollars is overseen by a volunteer board of 18 community members, and we ensure strict accountability of those funds, fiscal accountability, and careful use of your charitable donations. And so your money stays local, it's held accountable, and your money can also be used to accomplish these really big goals, like being part of the long-term recovery process in Malden Pine City. Through United Way of Whitman County, your investment is connected to businesses, volunteers, community leaders, and organizations. And when that happens, it really multiplies its impact. And so, together, we really can accomplish more than any single one person, group, or organization. And so it really does, our mission statement is really to live united, and really that kind of highlights our whole mission, because, again, too many problems for one person to solve. And so it's really in our best interest to work together in all this. So thank you so much for inviting United Way, and any questions?
Any questions of Eric or comments? And if you could take off your full screen, then I might be able to see the rest of the console. There we go. Nathan has his hand up. Okay, Nathan.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much, Eric. That was awesome. I just thank you for also featuring Community Child Care Center. That's where I went back in the 80s. So I also just wanted to recognize how amazing you've been as the leader of United Way there. And I know you stepped into that role and then stayed on, and you've just done an amazing job. They made a great choice. So I just wanted to wanted to say congrats, and I'm really happy to see you there. You're the right person for the job. So keep it up. You're doing great.
Appreciate those kind words, Nathan. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. And I see your president, Chris Finch, is on. So, Chris, it was nice working with you when I was on United Way board, and now we got Ann taking care of things. So again, Eric, you're doing a fantastic job there. Really have been as the director. So congratulations on that, and especially stepping up for the Malden Pine City area. You just United Way just did a terrific job with that.
Appreciate it, Mayor.
All right. Thank you again for your presentation. Before we do our consent agenda, at this point, I'd like to have Dan Records give an update on the subcommittee that came out of our council as far as the mural is concerned. So Dan Records, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. The subcommittee met approximately 2 weeks ago to hold to gather public feedback during a town hall kind of meeting. We heard from 13 residents, and we took the feedback from that meeting, and we also took all the feedback collected through email and through the feedback form, and we've taken some time to digest that. And one of the subcommittee members has met with staff to go over kind of putting together a draft of a survey. And so the next step for the subcommittee is to once staff is able to put together that draft is for the subcommittee to reconvene to go over that draft and fine tune it before that goes out to members of the community. But I also wanted to bring up what many of you all probably know as well, is that one of the artists that had submitted works to the previous Arts Commission mural project has been able to work with a local business owner to secure a building to put up her design for her mural. And they've done some private fundraising through GoFundMe, and were able to raise approximately $16,000 in about 2 days. So I'd also like to recognize kind of the work of Jaime Lin, and I think her design for that mural on the private building is really a fantastic design, and I'd like to just mention my support for that project. And really with the subcommittee, what I'd like to hear is if the council has any direction for us on where we go from here, because what we had talked about previously with the subcommittee is to gather the feedback, to put out a survey, to really kind of hone in on what are the specific content elements of a mural project that would go up on Spring Street. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to check in with the council on, is there any different direction the council would like to go at this point, or do you want us to keep going with the current course?
Okay, I see Brandon, then we'll go to Nathan.
Yeah, Councilmember Records, thank you for the update. I think when the discussion of panels was presented, and we're talking about adding panels every year, that I guess that would, to me, that would signify that it would not just be necessarily this message, but there would be future things discussed, which that I think it's great that there's going to be this mural, and I appreciate Willa Falcon for her being willing to have this. But of course that work's not done in reality. So even if it's not this message, there will be future messages, and I would hate to think that we will be caught in a situation with a future request that we're back in that same situation. And I think through this process, the subcommittee's done a good job looking at the policies and trying to see and make recommendations on what could be updated or fine-tuned, I guess, for the future. So I'm not asking to put more work on you, but I think you've done good work. And even if it's not this specific mural through this process, I think there'd be value to it.
Nathan Waller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to echo what Brandon said. It does seem like what the panels is another facet of a multifaceted challenge we face. And I also agree that the mural that on the side of the building is very impressive, and support that 100%. I think though also, and this is something that I've been wrestling with recently, is how best we can be supporters, allies. As I learned recently, the term accomplices to assist in this discussion and help along this discussion as being people in our positions. So on down the road, I know, Dan, you've spoken eloquently on this before, about how best to educate ourselves, if there are individuals, ways that we can educate ourselves. I think that would be a great thing for us to follow up on. I still feel, looking at the Juneteenth date, but again, I understand the crunch in time. So yes, that's from me. Thank you.
Any other comments from council? I know there's 3 on here. They're on the subcommittee. So, and Parks.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Dan and Pat and Eileen for their work. And I know that we all have continued to receive feedback from our community. And I think that in spite of what is happening with Willow's building, which I love, and I'm glad it's happening, I look forward to when we can look at the messaging again based on the community feedback and make sure that we are representing what the majority of people who are giving feedback are asking for. And I really support the multi-panel approach so that we can, eventually we'll have a history to look at. And like Dan said, we can, then we can install those somewhere permanently. So I just want to thank the subcommittee for the work that they're doing. Thank you.
Eileen.
Thank you all for that positive support. As we look around in our world, and one of the positive things that we see in terms of understanding who each of us is that Washington State has declared that Juneteenth is now a holiday. So I'm interested in how we can, as a community, incorporate that into some of our summer activities and make that very important to our community, because now that it's been recognized by the state, I think we need to be in the forefront of making something happen with that.
Okay. So Dan, I think you got some real positive. Oh, Pat Wright, please. One of the members of the subcommittee. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you all for your kind comments. We have had a very, very positive and collaborative experience working on this subcommittee. I think all 3 of us would agree to that. We have a unique opportunity here to really move this initial messaging forward, so as not to have people think just because there is another location now and private funding for this project, that the project on our part is going to be abandoned. I think our opportunity is to continue to grow the whole message of Pullman being welcoming on all levels. And I think we can tie that through a whole citywide theme, starting with the welcome wayside to whatever we propose in terms of a mural, to a celebration and recognition of the welcoming quality of Pullman. And so I guess having said that, and I'm not sure about my other 2 subcommittee members, my thought is that we were given very specific direction from the council. And in parentheses, I would say that, we've seen the enemy and it is us, because we are the they in part of this deliberation. But we were given very specific direction, from location to timeline. And are we at a point where we should be pivoting just a little bit to maybe broaden that direction, and broaden it anywhere from what exactly it is that we want to see from the messaging standpoint, as well as even location. I don't think that location has, no pun intended, been set in cement, but I think we have an opportunity maybe to take a look at other venues perhaps. So with that, I thank you for the time, and again, all your kind words and your support. And thank you to my co-subcommittee members. It's been great working with you.
Dan, any closing remarks?
Nathan, did you want to say something as well?
Okay, Nathan?
Yeah, thank you, Dan, and Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just want to make sure, I know we're all talking about the panels, but it is something that we need to go a little bit beyond. And I know Councilmember McCall had mentioned the Juneteenth, but I also feel that the more I attend some of these rallies, and several other council members have been a part of these as well, the more I realize the less I really know. And I think it's important for us moving forward as a council. It's great to have the murals out there showing support and so on and so forth. But I don't want us being kind of, and I'm only speaking from myself, kind of an ivory tower approach where it's, hey, here's this, we support you. I really, really want some opportunity where we can go into those who want to find a way to educate ourselves so that we can be better supporters. So moving forward, I know this discussion is about the mural, but I think it's a larger conversation. And I know, Dan, you've discussed this as well, as I mentioned, but yeah, subcommittee did great. I really appreciate it.
What I'd like to say is just kind of go along with what Pat was saying is, we as the subcommittee have been operating under the 8 different motions that we set out at the previous meeting that the council approved. And I'm just wondering if, we are doing the work to go forward with the survey. And the previous idea, I think, was very focused on the mural project. But I'm wondering if now we should take an approach to broaden the scope of that survey a little bit, to talk about the continuation of the action items that the city should be engaged in going off into the future. So looking at that broader scope of, different events in the future. I've talked about previously, and I'm connecting with Ann coming up here soon to develop a proposal for a potential diversity, equity, and inclusion committee for the city. Is that something the council wishes us to explore with this survey? I think we have an opportunity with the survey right now to gather that kind of feedback on what the city, what the residents, and what our community members want us to be engaged in terms of this type of these types of activities. And so, should we? I'm asking, should we continue with just focusing on the mural, or should we broaden up in the survey?
Back to Nathan.
I guess I would encourage broadening it. It's bigger than just the mural. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and Dan, I'm sorry, Mr.
We'll go to Brandon Chapman next.
Yeah, Dan, are you talking about just the survey, or because I also heard discussion about like a committee, like a bigger discussion on committee work. So I didn't know if you were suggesting a new committee or something like that.
I had previously talked about proposing a DEI committee, and that is something that Ann and I are talking about, and we'll bring a proposal back to council at a later date. But with the subcommittee, we had a very specific kind of charge of working on this mural. And, for us to continue, we can continue with the direction that we received previously. I'm just wanting the council to weigh in on, Do you want us to broaden that scope at this point, or do you want us to keep going with what we had previously discussed? Because now I think is before we finalize and send out that survey, I think now is the kind of the decision point. We'll be meeting again as a subcommittee to go over that draft survey before it goes out. But I just wanted, I think this is one of those touch points where we need to get more feedback from the council on what you'd like to see as we go forward.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I guess my thought would be to finish up the work that we had agreed on, lest it go in like perpetuity, forever. And then at some point, yes, let's transition. I know we've talked. I know I've talked, and many of you talked about the modernization of some of the committees, and this is definitely something we needed to talk about and work with now. And so I think this is the kind of thing that may fit underneath that bigger umbrella or the bigger discussion. So I would say yes, let's move forward, but with an end in mind for the subcommittee, knowing that work can be something examined by a different committee later on. I look forward to hearing that proposal.
Pat, right.
I don't think that what we're proposing is that we wouldn't continue the direction that we're starting. But as far as broadening what we were doing in terms of, as I mentioned, location, messaging, and certainly the committee piece was not part of the original direction that we got from the council. But as we've said, the direction initially was very specific. And so I think that's where we're talking about trying to make it a little bit more broad and thus a little more inclusive in terms of the messaging. And, right now, the Juneteenth timeline that we were looking at was absolutely ideal maybe a month or 6 weeks ago. But, the time is compressing, and, that certainly is not going to happen at this point. But that's not to say that we don't have some celebration around that, and perhaps at that point announce what our further direction might be. So not to step in or step on the toes of either Dan or Eileen. That's kind of what I'm thinking, that it's just a broadening and a continuation of the initial direction, if that helps.
And did I see your hand moving again, or you're okay? Very good. Okay, I think that's the comments, Dan, and I know we have a long agenda tonight, so
okay. Thank you.
Anything else that you need?
I think we'll take that, and we'll schedule a time for the next subcommittee meeting, and we'll go from there.
And I think I join the rest of the council members again saying thank you, subcommittee, for an excellent job you're doing. With that, we now move to the consent agenda. These items are considered routine in nature. Council's had a chance to look all these items over. And do I hear a motion to read by title only?
So moved. Second.
Move in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed. With that, Laura McAloon, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Your consent agenda consists of a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 23rd, 2021, and approve them as submitted. A motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 102683 through 102752, totaling $2,419,281.57. A motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 102753 through 102800, totaling $2,830.35. A motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 102801 through 102809, electronic transfers 78 and 699 through 702, payroll direct deposits numbered 67611 through 67918, totaling $859,093.29. A motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 102810 through 102853, totaling $85,008.98. A motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 102854 through 102890, totaling $353,222.53. A motion to approve disbursements for electronic funds transfer numbered 3252021, totaling $39,722.42. A motion to approve the transfer of sales tax revenue to CIP Reserve Fund for 2021 quarter one in the amount of $174,408. A motion to accept the city playfields upgrades contract as complete. A motion to accept the wastewater treatment plant UV disinfection and miscellaneous improvements contract as complete. A motion to approve the contract with Advanced Diving Services Incorporated for potable water storage, tank inspection, and cleaning activities. In addition, you have two resolutions. Resolution number R-20-21, a resolution approving a 6-year transit development plan for calendar years 2021 through 2026 and 2020 annual report for the city of Pullman. And resolution number R-21-21, a resolution authorizing the execution of a wireless communication facility permit agreement between the city of Pullman and Cellco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless, for the construction, operation, maintenance, repair, and removal of a wireless communication facility at the Hawaii tank number 10 site.
Is there any item the council would like out for discussion? Al Sorensen.
13.
Number 13. Okay, any others? With that, the consent agenda consists of items 1 through 12. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, Al Sorensen, item number 13.
Okay, and maybe if RJ's on the call here, which I think he is. Again, I have some concerns about the agreement at the tank. And in reading through the entire resolution and contract, I just want to make sure that we do follow through with making sure that everything is proper. I know that there's some painting that they talk about, painting things and making sure that it blends into the tank. I can tell you that if they don't tarp it or cover it, the drift on top of the hill up there causes the paint to float around and land on neighboring houses. I'm still concerned about the noise possibility and the decibels with the house being within about 30 feet of where this equipment's going to be. I understand it's all set out in the agreement of what's acceptable and what's not, but this is a very close proximity to residents in the neighborhood. And RJ, if you're there, can you just comment on some of that for me?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I think that Kevin may be able to answer a couple of those questions, but I think your main concern was the drift from the spray of the painting of the tank.
That with others.
Kevin?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this. Councilmember Sorensen, basically the Public Works Department administers these type of contracts for co-location on water tanks. So it will be our responsibility to make sure that the terms of the agreement are enforced.
Okay. I'll be monitoring the situation very closely.
Understood.
Okay, with that, do we hear a motion on item number 13?
Move to approve.
Second.
Move and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, at this point, since I'm going to check with Rob Baker to see how many people are in the waiting room, because we have a number of people who want to testify tonight on the public hearing, and to see if we can modify the agenda. So Rob, do you want to give me an update? Laura, I'm going to go to you on this one. Should we just go back to the standard time? Okay. So at this point, I would like to have a council approval for a modification of the agenda to conform with the rules and procedures. Normally, we would put a public hearing right after the consent agenda. This one is scheduled afterwards. We want to make sure that the people who wanted to testify, we had number 16, the last report. So do I hear a motion to modify the agenda to have it at the place? It's actually on your agenda.
Move to so modify.
Laura has something.
Yeah, Mayor, actually, they wouldn't need to modify the agenda since it is placed. It would
Right,
simply be.
we were going to do it if we could get it earlier. That's right.
Right, but what I.
But
Yeah.
I thought we had it changed because of the rules of the procedure.
Yes, what I would be looking for would be a motion to waive the rules of procedure to provide for the public hearing at the point in time at which it's depicted on the agenda. Your rules of procedure actually do call for it to be after the regular meeting, and with the clerk out on vacation, the agenda that was published had the public hearing after the regular, out of order, according to your rules of procedure. So what I'm looking for is a motion to waive the rules of procedure and accept the public hearing at the time when it's scheduled to be held.
Okay. Dan, you had the.
That's the same thing.
Okay. Waive the
I
rules.
don't think, Mayor, you actually had the second yet on the
I
earlier.
was going for the second right now. So do I have a second?
I need to amend the motion.
Thank
So-
you. Or just simply withdraw that motion. It dies without a second.
Withdrawn.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would propose a motion to
Waive the rules
waive
of
the
procedure.
rules and procedures so that we can have the public hearing scheduled after the regular agenda.
All right. And Ann, that's acceptable to you? It's a
Yes,
second.
that's second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, if all 15 were in that chat room ready to go, we would have done it. So just want you to know. Okay, with that, we now move to the regular agenda. First item is a resolution amending a resolution relating to rules and procedures once again. And this time, Mike Urban gets it.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. Before you tonight is Resolution R-22-21, which amends Resolution R-12-13 relating to the rules of procedure and updating the location of regular meetings of the Pullman City Council. So last October, we moved City Hall from 325 Southeast Paradise Street to 190 Southeast Crestview Street. And during this time leading up to that, and even till now, we're still meeting virtually. And as was touched on earlier tonight, we will be working towards meeting back in person. So a little housekeeping item here is to change our activities to reflect the new meeting site. So staff recommends passing resolution R-22-21 as presented, identifying 190 Southeast Crestview Street as the new in-person meeting site for the City Council. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? If not, do I hear a motion on this resolution?
Move to adopt R-22-21.
Second.
Moved and second. Laura, would you read the resolution?
Resolution number R-22-21, a resolution amending resolution number R-12-13 relating to rules of procedure for the Pullman City Council and updating the location of regular meetings of the Pullman City Council.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank you,
With that, we
Council.
move to item number 2. It's a resolution accepting the bid of Curtis Concrete Construction for sidewalks. And for that, Kara Haley, our city engineer, is on the line. So Kara?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. The City Sidewalk 2021 contract includes various sidewalk improvements throughout the southern portion of Pioneer Hill. Roughly half of the proposed work involves sidewalk maintenance, with the other half constructing new sidewalk in areas in which there currently are none, which I'll continue to refer to as sidewalk infill. I'm going to try here get fancier than normal and share a screen with you. Hopefully you guys can see an exhibit that I pulled up. This was included in the council packet as well, and it identifies the areas targeted for work under this project. The thick black lines specifically represent maintenance areas in which raised sidewalk panel edges will be ground down to make a smooth transition, and select existing sidewalk panels will be removed and replaced. As you can see on the figure, maintenance is proposed throughout the south portion of Pioneer Hill from roughly Crestview Street to Bishop Boulevard. Sidewalk infill areas are also shown on this figure, represented by a diagonal hatching. I'm going to zoom in on those a little bit for you so you can see them better. Under this project, sidewalk infill is proposed in 3 different locations. Let's see here. So the first one is on Southeast Harvest Drive, south of Bishop Boulevard. In this location, where I hopefully popped up this red line, new sidewalk will be constructed along the west side of Harvest Drive to essentially fill in the existing gap from Bishop Boulevard south to the existing sidewalk on Brailsford Drive. So right there near Starbucks. This new sidewalk will typically be 6 feet wide with a 4-foot landscaping strip between it and the existing curb and gutter. The other 2 sidewalk infill areas in this year's contract are located in the immediate vicinity of New City Hall. One is on the north side of Southeast Crestview Street from South Grand Avenue east to the western New City Hall driveway entrance. We're zoomed out a little bit, but the first line that I popped up there is the general vicinity of that. The work will take place in the right-of-way directly south of Perfection Tire. There is some existing asphalt surfacing present here, kind of forming somewhat of a walkway, but it's quite narrow. It doesn't meet ADA requirements. The cross slope is steep. So this project will construct a 7-foot wide sidewalk in this location, and then it'll narrow to a 4-foot wide driveway walk around at the southern entrance there into the Perfection Tire. The new sidewalk will connect into and match existing sidewalk on both sides. And then the last sidewalk infill area is directly north of New City Hall. In this area, we're proposing 6-foot wide sidewalk, which will be constructed from the end of Southeast High Street, south into and along the edge of the New City Hall parking lot. It will connect to the existing ADA ramp northwest of Building B. We've also incorporated a sidewalk segment that leads from the new sidewalk down to the existing playground. This particular walkway will be 5 feet wide, and it will have a single 5-foot by 5-foot landing roughly midway to the playground, in keeping consistent with accessible route requirements. In total, this project consists of removing and replacing roughly 430 square yards of concrete sidewalk, constructing 317 square yards of new concrete sidewalk, removing and replacing 279 linear feet of curb and gutter, constructing 3 ADA curb ramps, grinding approximately 226 linear feet of raised panel edges, and other miscellaneous related work. Bidding for this project closed on March 16th of this year. We had 2 bid proposals received. I popped up the bid summary for you to see for reference. The low bidder was Curtis Concrete Construction, Inc. at $182,914.23. This is approximately $20,000 higher than the engineer's estimate and roughly $5,000 less than the second bidder's proposed total. Funding for this project will be from the street fund, with work expected to start up as soon as possible and be complete by the end of July of this summer. It is staff's recommendation that council adopt the prepared resolution awarding the Sidewalks 2021 contract to Curtis Concrete Construction, Inc. for the previously stated bid amount. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Is there questions? Usually our sidewalk expert, Al Sorensen, would have a comment about sidewalks, but I was just looking for your hand there, Al. But I see Brandon's instead. We'll go to Brandon.
Don't. I was going to say, don't worry, Mayor. Al still may have a comment, so there's still time. Kara, thank you for the presentation. I have maybe a bigger question, and maybe this is an RJ question, but I noticed that portion of sidewalk that's going to the Brailsford development. And I guess my question is why this wasn't part of the development, why this wasn't the developer that put that in, and why the city is picking that up.
Sure. I don't have the whole history on that one. I wasn't as involved on the piece of it. I believe it maybe should have been put in for Brailsford commercial development. They obviously went in, as I showed that figure, I pointed where Chipotle was, and obviously we've had additional sidewalk going in that area. And I unfortunately don't have the full backstory on why that one never went in, but somehow we missed the window of opportunity for the developer to do that. And it has been a high priority since to try and get that. Obviously, it's a high use area. So I wish I had more of the backstory for you. I wasn't overly involved with that.
Kevin?
Yeah, I can provide some backstory there. When we reviewed the site plan for the Brailsford development, there's Starbucks, the car wash, a number of businesses up there, Chipotle. The developer was required to build basically Brailsford Drive and put sidewalk in on both sides, and then also run sidewalk along Bishop Boulevard. So they basically had the sidewalk on multiple sides of their property, which is kind of unusual, and it's a big ask when we start asking for sidewalk, with the length that was required with that development. And then the lot where there's actually a lot there where that sidewalk is going in, and the city owns that lot. It's a stormwater facility. So typically we would require developers to improve the property along their frontage, and that's what we did with their site plan. But it felt like it was a little bit of too much of an ask to ask them to put it on that side where the city owned the lot. So that's why it's coming to you now.
Okay. Any other comments? Al?
Kevin, I appreciate the comments there, but I'll go back to what I've been preaching for an awful long time, and that is, he developed that entire section. The sidewalk should have been put in my opinion, and should have been included. And Brandon, I like the way you're asking the question, because that's what I was going to ask also. And I think that in the future, we need to make sure that even if it's a circle around the whole thing, he's developing the whole thing. What about the stormwater retention area there? Was that his property and he had to build that when he did that section, or?
The stormwater facility was put in with the Walmart project as part of building Harvest Drive. So it picks up stormwater from Harvest Drive.
So that was a Walmart thing. So we actually could have gone way back to that when they put the sidewalk in on the other side of Harvest then.
I suppose.
Yeah. I just continue to promote for sidewalks in Pullman and infilling where we need to and as we need to, and make sure that things are as good as they can. Kara, I appreciate that. I know you wanted to speak with me about some things, and I have had too busy to get back to you, but we will talk more about it. And I do think it's an extremely important thing as transportation in Pullman. The sidewalks are transportation ways. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nathan, and then we'll go to Eileen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kara, thank you for that. And, I have to, as Al's talked about this, and I appreciate him pushing for this. And I know Brandon has pushed for multimodal as well. And that's extremely important looking forward. I think what really needs to be emphasized, and Kevin, I can appreciate what you're saying, that it seems like a big ask. But in my opinion, as Pullman has grown, and as we look at future generations, lifestyle and the look of the city, the as Al has, Councilmember Sorensen mentioned, transportation, walkability, all of these things go hand in hand with the growth of the city, the look of the city, how it feels, why people come here, why businesses would build here. It's the lifestyle, it's the culture. And I do not feel it's too much of an ask to require developments and developers to work in collaboration with us to create that feeling, that quality of life that's really being looked for. I think it ultimately helps their ability to bring in business. It helps us bring in business as well as citizens. And I think it's all around. It may seem like a big ask right up front, but when you look at the whole view, the whole picture, it's actually a very, very good collaboration, and it's a great way to pitch this city that we're working with developers to bring people here, keep a high quality of life for everyone who works, plays, does business. So anyways, it's my opinion.
Eileen.
I absolutely concur with what Nathan just said in the previous council comments. I think there's been a growing emphasis on this on the part of council. And yeah, transportation first. I mean, you got to be able to get there from here, or why have a business at all? I was at the bank today in the drive-through, and I saw people walking up and down the Brailsford Drive even today with no sidewalk there. So they're going up there patronizing those businesses, and we need to be transportation first. And I don't know, let's look around and see if there's maybe some transportation money coming down the pike from the federal level, and let's get these sidewalks buttoned up. And it is not too big of an ask. If someone wants to do business here, transportation comes first. It is a priority, as Nathan has so well said. Thank you.
Transportation safely. And all the pedestrians, anyone walking those sidewalks would be nice and safe. And I know that it was quite a while before we finally got that sidewalk completed on Bishop Boulevard where people were walking in the dirt. We've got that one done. So we're grateful for that. Any other comments on this? Go back to Brandon.
Just, yeah, to clarify. So at this point, I mean, has Brailsford satisfied all of the requirements that were asked? Okay. So I would say, yeah, so we're on the hook, obviously. I think from my stance, from constituents that I represent, from my council colleagues, I think moving forward, we really have to look at saying, hey, this is a desirable place to develop. We of course want people to develop. We don't want to put up too many roadblocks, but we have to look out for the best interest of the residents. And when it seems to me like when some of these discussions are happening on stipulations, I feel like we're told, well, that's something that'll be worked out in the site plan. By that time, these concessions are made, and we don't necessarily have a say at that moment. So I guess this is the say that we're having is moving forward. I'd rather not see these kind of concessions like this, because there's great money. We benefit, yes, but there's also great money to be made with these developments. And if it means extra people are going to be needing to walk there to patronize these businesses, then let's ask that be put in up front, and I think the developers will do that.
Nathan, I see your hand again.
Yeah, just one last mention. I was thinking about it as I was looking on the Zoom, and something I know that Dan has really championed is those that are handicapped, people that have different needs. You don't have those sidewalks there. It makes it extremely difficult in that way as well. And going in afterwards. So we have to keep in mind those vulnerable citizens as well, who might want to be, who might need to get there and don't have a way to get there. So besides using a van or something along those lines. So.
Okay. With that, do I hear a motion on this resolution?
Move to adopt R-23-21.
Second.
Moving second. Laura, would you read the resolution, please?
Resolution number R-23-21, a resolution accepting the bid of Curtis Concrete Construction Incorporated for sidewalks 2021 and authorizing execution and delivery of the contract for said project.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, we now move to item number 3. It's a resolution authorizing the submittal of a certified local government grant application. And for that, we go to RJ Lott.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Before you this evening is a grant application. It is a certified local government grant. This has been a program that the City of Pullman has been active in since 2011. This grant is traditionally focused on the comprehensive inventory of historic resources in the community. In February of this year, the Historic Preservation Commission decided to propose that the grant funding for this year's grant application be used for the research of the history of underrepresented populations in Pullman. The total project cost in this draft application is $23,869. The proposed budget includes a request for $12,305 in the Historic Preservation Fund grant money and $11,564 of hard match supplied by the city for administration. These funds would come from staff wages, supplies, and mailings, and things similar to that. Included in the staff report is a copy of the grant application and a resolution for your review. Are there any questions of the City Council?
Okay, I don't see any questions at this time. Then do I hear a motion on this resolution?
Move to adopt.
Okay.
Second.
Moving second. Laura, once again.
Resolution number R-24-21, a resolution authorizing the submittal of a certified local government grant application to the Washington State Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation for the purpose of researching underrepresented populations in Pullman's history.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And now we move to item number 4 on our agenda. It's a motion to approve the purchase of 2 new Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicles. On the line with us is Ryan Lancaster with Maintenance and Operation. Ryan, I understand you're doing an excellent job in the accounting area to make sure we have all the bids done correctly. So Ryan, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Before you is an RFQ to approve the purchase of 2 new vehicles, police vehicles that were originally scheduled to replace last year, but we put a hold due to COVID. So they're a little bit older. This RFQ it represents a new approach that we've been taking in our procurement of vehicles. Firstly, we've engaged with the police department and intend to engage with other departments in a much more collaborative and inclusive manner when we're going out to bid and creating specs. We work closely with the police department to help us create this bid specification, specifically Officer Cornish and Officer Anderson, as well as others. We want to thank them for their help. And we intend to continue to do this and throughout the department as we're making purchases of vehicles throughout the city. Secondly, this RFQ changes our approach on how we order vehicles by including the upfitting services into the RFQ. In the past, we've purchased the vehicles and then ERD staff has worked with third-party vendors to get them upfitted to where they're usable. With the police vehicles in particular, this generally meant taking the vehicle that we tend to retire and sending it to an upfitter to remove all the parts, all the equipment, and then reinstall it on a new vehicle, which could take up to several months, which would leave the police department short a vehicle for a time. The new process, this upfitting service is all included in it. So it's now the vendor's responsibility to make sure that it has been properly upfitted through our guidance. By the time it reaches us, it's ready to be put into service. And this should reduce that downtime for the police department, as well as other departments as we proceed with it. It also gives us a clear view of all the costs associated in the bid. So normally, as I described, we take the old equipment and place it into new equipment, into the new vehicles. However, because of design changes with the new police models, we weren't able to use the old equipment, which we've been using for some time on these new vehicles, which made it so we had to go out and procure new equipment. And unfortunately, that put us over the budget that we had anticipated for just the vehicles. So our recommendation is to proceed with purchasing the vehicles and the new equipment. We had 110 budgeted. The amount we had for this RQ, we had one bidder from Just Ford of Pullman for amount of $140,562.82. And that's all that I have to present. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to field them.
Any questions? Okay, Ann Parks first.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you so much for that information. My question is, what happens to the old vehicles and or the old equipment? Are we able to sell that to recoup some of the cost back?
Yes, we surplus all of the vehicles after we retire them.
What about the equipment, the radio? I'm assuming we're talking in police vehicles, radio equipment, antennas, all that, the power supplies, batteries, all the other things that you have to maintain all that equipment.
Yeah, then I don't know all the details on that. I'd have to get with, probably Art could inform you better, but it also includes like partitions and cargo storage and all sorts of things that go into the police vehicles. But yes, we surplus all of the items that we can no longer use. We tend to surplus.
And so do the proceeds from that surplus help fill that gap between the bid and the amount that we had budgeted?
It will some. We also have identified some items in the budget that we can that we had previously budgeted for, but won't have to continue with this year. We can put off to future years, so we won't be short as far as our reserve or whatnot. And maybe Art has more comments on that.
Yeah, I could take over and answer some of your questions there, Ann. The answer to the question about do we surplus all the equipment? Pretty much everything that was named off in that conversation would be stuff that we would surplus. It's, most of that stuff is kind of, it's been used up pretty much, and so there's not much life in it, and that includes the radios. So yeah, and what was the last part of the last question? I didn't hear that.
I just asked if the proceeds from anything we do surplus would go toward the gap between the bid and the budgeted amount.
Yeah, so anything like I keep track of the fund balances for each of the departments, and part of that bank, what I call the bank, would be the proceeds from surplusing. So the money that we get for surplusing police vehicles goes into their bank and then offsets future. So they end up being able to spend it in the future, but that's the way we do that. So they do benefit from that for sure.
Great, thank you.
I will point out too that this equipment we will be able to then, this new equipment we will be able to then use on when we get a replacement in the future.
Absolutely, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, do I hear a motion on this?
Just one real quick question, Mayor. Did I read correctly that these will be hybrid vehicles?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
They are doing tests on fully electric police vehicles, but they're doing tests. And that's, I just want to make sure that was there. Okay. Do I hear a motion then on this?
Move to it.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ann.
I move to approve the purchase of 2 new Ford Police Interceptor vehicles.
Second.
Moved and seconded. For a motion to approve the purchase of 2 new Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicles, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. We now move to the public hearing. And tonight we need to conduct a public hearing, take action on a petition for annexation of real property near Southeast Johnson Road. Before we do that, it's time for the appearance of fairness questions. And so what I'll do is I'll just call you as I see you on my screen, and we'll go from there. So with that, does any member of this council have knowledge of having conducted business with either the proponents or opponents of this proceeding? Dan?
No.
Pat?
No.
Ann?
No.
Al?
No.
Nathan?
No.
Eileen? I saw your mouth say no, and I didn't hear you, but you, okay. And Brandon?
No.
And Glenn, no. Has any member of this council communicated with any proponent or opponent regarding the proposal that is subject to this proceeding? Dan?
No.
Pat?
No.
Ann?
No.
Al?
No.
Nathan?
No.
Eileen?
No.
Brandon?
No.
And Glenn, no. Does any member of this council have either a financial or personal interest in the outcome of this proceeding? Dan?
Nope.
Pat?
No.
Ann?
No.
Al?
No.
Nathan?
No.
Eileen?
No.
Brandon?
No.
Glenn, no. Does any member of this council know whether or not their employer has a financial interest in this matter or has an interest in the outcome of this proceeding? Dan?
No.
Pat?
No.
Ann?
No.
Al?
No.
Nathan?
No.
Eileen?
No.
Brandon?
No.
Glenn? Does any member of this council live or own property within 300 feet of the area which is subject to this proceeding? Dan?
No.
Pat?
No.
Ann?
No.
Al?
No.
Nathan?
No.
Eileen?
No.
Brandon?
No.
Glenn, no. Does any member of this council have any special knowledge about the substance or merits of this proceeding which would or could cause the council member to prejudge the outcome of this proceeding? Dan?
No.
Pat?
No.
Ann?
No.
Al?
No.
Nathan?
No.
Eileen?
No.
Brandon?
No.
Glenn, no. Is there any member of this council who believes that he or she cannot sit and hear this matter fairly and impartially, both as to the respective positions of the proponents and the opponents of this proceeding? Dan?
No.
Glenn? No. Pat?
No.
Ann?
No.
Al?
No.
Nathan?
No.
Eileen?
No.
Brandon?
No.
And then, is there any member of the audience who, because of the appearance of fairness doctrine, wishes to disqualify any member of this council from hearing the matter? If so, please state the name of the council member and the reason for, or reasons why you believe that member should be disqualified because of the appearance of fairness doctrine. And we heard nothing ahead of time on this. So with that, we now go to RJ Lott for the presentation of this. And then we will also hear from, at last report, I had 16 members of the general public who will be limited to 2 minutes for their public testimony. So that, RJ.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening once again, Council. The item before you this evening is an annexation for approximately 48.33 acres. Let me share a map here with you. The location of the proposed annexation is east of Johnson Road, north of Old Moscow Road, and south of SR 220. The petition or excuse me, the notice of intent to annex was submitted back on November 3rd, 2020. This map that is on the screen is in your council packet as attachment A. The comprehensive plan, which is dated 1999 and amended in 2013, identifies this area as within the growth area created to accommodate urban development over the next 50-year time horizon. The pre-zone classification via ordinance 2013-9 is R3 medium density multifamily residential district. The land under consideration is currently occupied as an agricultural use. The Planning Commission met to review this request on December 16th, 2020. There was no public comment on the item at that time, and after a short discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request subject to 3 conditions involving assumption of city indebtedness, acceptance of the above referenced zoning district for the property, and incorporation into the hospital district. The City Council met to review the notice of intent to annex on January 26, 2021. And after discussing the matter, the council voted unanimously to accept the proposed annexation subject to the following petitioner instructions. As mentioned earlier, the first one was petitioner shall assume their proportionate share of indebtedness upon annexation as determined by the city finance director. Number 2, the petitioner shall accept the assignment of R3 medium density multifamily residential zoning designation for the subject property to become effective immediately upon annexation. By the way, R3 medium density multifamily residential zoning allows for up to 29 dwelling units per acre with a maximum building height of 45 feet. Number 3, prior to council public hearing on this annexation, the proposed prior to the public hearing on this annexation proposal, the petitioner shall initiate proceedings for annexation of the subject property to Whitman County Hospital District Number 1A, and that is included in your council packet also. The Whitman County Assessor's Office has certified the application as sufficient, identifying a sole owner of the parcel in question as 2GM LLC. The notice of public hearing for this public hearing was posted in 3 places within the proposed annexation area on March 30th, 2021, and said notice was published in the Moscow Pullman Daily News on April 3rd, April 7th, and April 10th of 2021. With respect to the City Council's annexation instructions above, items 1 and 2 would take effect upon annexation of the property. Petitioners have complied with the instruction number 3 by submitting annexation to petition Hospital District Number 1A, and that is once again attachment D as part of their petition materials. Annexations are SEPA exempt under RCW 43.21C.222. There is no traffic analysis done with annexations as there's no site-specific proposal at this time. The applicant has not submitted any indication of how they propose to develop the property. Traffic analysis would be done either via the SEPA analysis or done during a site plan review when we have the opportunity to review the access points as well as the number of dwelling units. The access and utility service for the property appear to be satisfactory. The parcel is bordered on the west by a parcel also owned by the petitioners, designated as an arterial collector street in the city's arterial street plan. Public water and sanitary sewer lines extend along the north side of the annexation proposal at Southeast Johnson Road. These water and sanitary sewer lines could be extended as needed for future development. In conclusion, the petitioners for this proposed annexation have complied with the applicable provisions of state law and the instructions issued by the City Council. Planning staff recommends that the council approve the petitioner's request to annex the subject property into the city of Pullman. Are there any questions of the city council?
And again, you might just repeat a couple of key points that you said. I just want to make sure view of the emails that we've received, and then we'll hear some public testimony tonight, that we're talking strictly annexation. We do not have any proposed what that property will be used for. Traffic mitigation, all that comes later, correct?
Yes, that would be done during the site plan review once we get the application for specific development. At this time, there is no indication from the applicant on how they'd like to develop the property.
Other questions of the council? Al Sorensen.
RJ, I'm going to ask you to throw that map back up there, and then I just want to reference the dark line there being the proposed south bypass, and I really appreciate you putting that on there per request from us on any other things going on. So I like that you put that on there, so it does kind of cut the corner there a little bit. And do the petitioners to annexation know that that is part of our quote proposed area?
Well, as you know, there is no right-of-way obtained for the South Bypass Road at this time, especially in this specific location. So they may not be aware of the specific plans, but at this time, like I said, there's no right-of-way obtained as the South Bypass would move north and connect with Terraview across SR 220.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? And at this point, then, we will go to the public hearing. And again, I'd like to remind all those who would like to testify tonight, you have 2 minutes in view of the number that we have. So, Rob Baker, I know that you're doing the technological part here where you're going to bring them on board. And so the order that we had as of 5 o'clock this evening, we're going to go by that. And the first one that we had was Nancy Mack. And so please identify yourself and your address, and then you have 2 minutes. Nancy. Once. Okay. Nancy, can you hear us? You're on. I don't know if okay, you might also bring in the second one too, so we can move them right along here. We bring in the one too, so we can just move them right along here. And we're getting or the YouTube. Okay, Nancy Mack.
Thank you.
And
Mack.
2 minutes. Okay.
I'm 910 Southeast Sunnymead Way, Pullman.
Okay.
Thank you for this hearing. 910 Southeast Sunnymead Way, Pullman. Thank you for this hearing. I assume you value what public.
Nancy, you'll need to shut off your other speaker. We're hearing everything. Nancy, you'll need to shut off your other speaker. We're hearing. So, Nancy, I think you had the other YouTube going on or some other speaker. So, okay, turn your mic back on and we'll try again. Once again, Nancy Mack. Once again, Nancy Mack.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes. Again, Nancy Mack.
All right. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
There's an echo.
Nancy Mack.
All right. Hello, can you hear me now? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. I assume that you, this is not working, sorry.
Mayor.
Laura?
Yeah, Mayor, can I suggest that we have Ms. Mack wait and Rob can work with her about the audio
Okay,
and then have her come back?
The next person we have is Ruth Nice. Ruth, we'll go to you. And again, 2 minutes.
And Mayor, her display still shows as connecting to audio.
Okay, obviously we're trying something a little bit different here tonight.
It is difficult.
Yes. And Ruth Nice is next. We'll try and go back to Nancy. And if Rob can bring on those who are going to testify, number 3 and 4, that would help out. Ruth Nice, can you open your mic, or how's that working?
Can you hear me?
Ruth, I can, yes, go.
Okay.
Can I call you back? I'm up.
Ruth Nice has the floor right now. And again, please identify yourself, your address, and you have 2 minutes.
Ruth Nice, 809 Southwest Crestview Street. Pullman's mission statement, vision statement, and comprehensive plan all emphasize quality of life in Pullman, which depends on, quote, ample infrastructure and public services and a valued natural environment, unquote. The plan dated June 2020 repeatedly states the goal of conserving and complementing the natural resources of the area and preserving agricultural land to the greatest possible extent. How does the proposed apartment complex fit into this mission? I know you said we don't know about an apartment complex, but we all know that that's what they're going to do. Page 121 of the plan states that multifamily tax exemptions, the value of the property is exempted from property taxes for 8 to 12 years. Is there a tax break planned for the developer? If so, we're going to have to make up the difference, we taxpayers. The policy H222 states to promote availability of current affordable housing stock for long-term residents by identifying optimal locations for student housing in centers and corridors. The property off Johnson Road is neither in Pullman Center nor is it located on a corridor, and it will not accommodate increased traffic. There are no shoulders on Johnson Road, let alone sidewalks. How would students walk safely to the bus stops on Bishop Boulevard? So my question for you is, for whom does Pullman City Council work? Do you work for citizens of Pullman, or for a developer from California whose only motive is profit, who does not know Pullman and does not care about our community? You have the opportunity to honor all the best that Pullman can be. We will remember how you decide on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, and I see Nancy Mack is there now on screen. So Nancy, if you would mute, you could go back and start over again. But you have to, there we go. Now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you have to,
Thank
there
you.
we go.
Hi,
Now.
I'm Nancy Mack, 910
Yes.
Southeast Sunny Mead Way in Pullman. Thank you for this hearing. I assume that you value what public
Nancy,
citizens.
we're still getting reverb. You might have to figure out some other microphone on that. We're still getting reverb. So let's go to Bob Purdue. I see Bob is up here. So Bob, please state your name and your address, and you have 2 minutes.
I'm Bob Purdue, and I'm actually with Nelson Partners. I am with the development company that is applying for the annexation of the 48 acres. First, I would like to say that the hearing tonight, or this hearing what we're doing tonight, is really for the annexation of the 48 acres into the city of Pullman. It is not regarding any approvals for the development, the actual development of the 48 acres. Hello?
You're on. Keep going.
Okay. Second of all, I would like to say that in order for us to develop the 48 acres, the property itself is currently in the county, and it is currently zoned R3, which is medium density multifamily. To develop the property does not require the property to be annexed into the city of Pullman. We can develop the property per the zoning and leave it in the county to do that. But however, if we do that, the city of Pullman will have no jurisdiction and no say-so or no control over what we develop on that property. So the reason we want to annex the property into the city is to follow the guidelines and develop the property with the guidance of the city of Pullman and follow the master plan of Pullman, the city of Pullman. rather than follow the master plan of the county. So it actually, by annexing the property into the city of Pullman, it actually benefits the city of Pullman. It is not a negative.
Okay, Bob, that's your time is up. So thank you very much for that. I see Nancy still working on a thing. Jenny Hauser is next. Jenny?
My name is Jenny Hauser, 810 Southeast Green Hill Road, Pullman. Can you hear me okay? Thank you, Mayor and council members. My comments below are in regard to Nelson Partners' proposed annexation of this property on Johnson Road. Access to the property is not adequate to support R3 density in contradiction to the staff report on file. All access problems previously commented on by the public in regard to the proposed Elevate project apply. Those comments were of August 2019 with the determination that 2 accesses were needed. In this plan currently has 1 access through the Elevate property. In the absence of infrastructure improvements such as the South Bypass and major reconfiguration of Bishop, Pro Mall, Johnson Avenue, and Main Street intersections, it is premature to contemplate development of this property at R3 density. Without significant infrastructure improvements, residents of the Johnson Avenue Road, Old Moscow Road, Sand Road area will be unable to access Bishop Boulevard and city services. Employees of Schweitzer's new building off Sand Road would also be unable to travel to Pullman. Anyone coming from any direction would find significant traffic and difficulty accessing businesses and medical services off Bishop Boulevard. The intersection of Bishop and Main cannot handle any increase in traffic flow. All directions of traffic would be impeded. Finally, I'm very concerned about pedestrian and bicycle access and safety, and feel that those would also be hindered with more development in this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Our next person up is Melissa Johnson, and I don't see the name up here right now. Rob, is that from that phone, or do you see her in there? And if not, then I saw she disappeared. I saw that. Let me go back to Nancy to see if she's not getting that reverb again. So Nancy, you want to try again? Have you shut off the other speakers and we're ready to go here? So at least we're getting people coming through here. So Nancy, try it again.
I'm trying, but I cannot get through.
Nancy,
Sorry.
try it again.
I'm trying, but
Yep, you're still getting all that reverb.
I'm gonna send my talk to Mike Urban and ask you to read it. I'm gonna send my talk to Mike Urban and ask you to read it.
Press the unmute button on the TV.
So just do the phone in. Again, Rob, you have not seen Melissa Johnson with that. Next one I have is Carl Hauser. So Carl, it's your turn to be on. And again, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. The question of whether to annex the property to the city hinges on satisfactory access, a term that is used in the staff report, but not defined. But one can reasonably assume that this includes access that will allow the property to be used for its own purpose, in this case, R3 medium density housing. The city staff's report, on the basis of no evidence whatsoever or reasoning that access via the adjacent Nelson Partners property to Johnson Avenue at its intersection with Bishop constitutes satisfactory access. However, there is a great deal of evidence in the record related to the Elevate project proposed for that same property of the difficulties that currently exist at Johnson Bishop and how adding hundreds of trips per day would likely create intolerable difficulties for users of Bishop and Johnson, especially impacting residents of the county in the area south and east of the city. Furthermore, in its report to the Planning Commission about the proposal, the staff stated that the property would require 2 connections to city streets. That has been dropped in the current report that is now incorporated in the proposed findings of fact. It would be a serious mistake for the City Council to make a finding of fact that the proposed access is satisfactory. It could forever tie the hands of the city in requiring developers of this property to provide access that is actually satisfactory. And you've seen an example of that earlier this evening with the sidewalks issue, where it wasn't required at the time, and now the city is stuck with the bill. In short, I urge you to reject the proposed findings of fact and deny this annexation proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gary Bloomfield is on the air next. Gary, you want to identify yourself and then also give your address, please.
Hello?
Gary?
Yes.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay. My name is Gary Bloomfield. I live at 1502 Old Moscow Road. I've lived at that address 49 years. Thank you for taking my call. I'm not totally against the annexation of the property. I think a landowner should have the right to develop their property that they've bought. However, the increased traffic on Bishop Boulevard needs to be addressed. Since Walmart on top of the hill, the hospital, 3 pot shops at the same intersection have come in, the traffic on Bishop Boulevard has got so many days during busy hours and most all day long, it's impossible to make a left turn off of Johnson Road. And that's our access to the hospital. Large trucks, both directions, grain, fertilizer with long trailers, use that road and make that corner. So I think that it should be considered the developer needs to stand the cost of improvements such as traffic signals, roundabout, etc., whatever it takes to make it possible to get on to Bishop Boulevard. And these are not just a small roundabout, it's got to be a big one for 40-foot trailers. So I thank you for your time. I hope you give it serious thought, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Our next person on the schedule is Bobby Ryder. I don't see her name up here. I don't see that, so I'm going to go to the Burns clan, which is next on our list. Rex Burns, it would be your turn. You would.
Hello, Mayor. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. So,
okay.
Your
Yes.
turn. Please identify yourself and your address.
My name is Rex Burns, and I'm on 452 Old Moscow Road, and very near the development area that we're talking about. And the people before me have said most of what I had to comment on, but also I would just like to say that in general, I think the point is that the commission and the planning of the area, like most people, we would like it to be productive and positive for our way of life and the reason we chose to live in Pullman or in the county. And at this time, I'm in the county, not in the city. And but what I would like to suggest is that the pre-zoning from 2013 maybe be reconsidered for what is maybe better for the area and the community as a whole. It seems to me like it might be worthy to put back to the Planning Commission for that pre-zoning, take it back to a R1 type zone. So I just appreciate your time, and we would like to be able to have more comment as the development goes further.
Now, Rex, I saw that Beth Biden Burns is also scheduled. The next one is she
Yes.
available on your line here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Wonderful. My name is Beth Benton Burns, and I too live at 452 Old Moscow Road. And, we did have a big community meeting about this back in, I believe it was 2018. And we were presented with the big apartment complex Elevate that was on the docket at that time. And I just feel like with the situation how it is now, there's more apartment vacancies than there were before COVID. And I think that we might need to wait and see what our new normal becomes after the pandemic, see what happens with higher education in WSU. Are students going to come, or are they going to remain primarily online? We don't need a glut of empty apartments. And we would like to see the zoning less dense. Also, I don't understand why it would be Whitman County Hospital. Why would this annexation have that rather than Pullman Regional, which is just, you know, right around the corner and up the hill? So that was another question that I had about this proposal. So I am opposed to this proposal. I think that it's ill-timed, and I also agree with all the other comments. Thank you very much.
And Beth, the legal name for Pullman Regional Hospital is Whitman County, and it has the rural district. It has that district thing for Pullman Regional. That's the.
I don't think that's
I
true.
thought that meant Colfax. So thank you for clarifying.
Pullman, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I see that Nancy Mack is now back by phone. So Nancy, we're going to give you one more chance. I see that Nancy Mack is now back by phone. So Nancy, and we're still hearing reverb.
Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, but we're still hearing reverb. We'll try it again.
Can you hear me?
You obviously have some other speaker going that you're hearing something back on you. So try it one more time, Nancy.
Try what? I'm trying everything.
One more time, Nancy.
Can you hear me now? Do you want me to talk?
Yes, go. Let's just try it. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I assume that you value the public citizens' input and that each of you will have the courage to oppose your staff's recommendations when you have an issue so egregiously not in our public interest. I'm here tonight to ask you to return this annexation proposal back to your planning department because it's wrong for these reasons. The hearing was not adequately advertised to the public. 3 small, very distant signs from Johnson Road were an insult to the notion of transparency. The planning department's finding of facts overly favors the property owner and does not consider the needs and desires of the community, as stated in the comprehensive plan goal number LU2. I'm not opposed to growth, but I prefer smart growth that doesn't cause daily traffic jams, make pedestrian use a nightmare, and financially impact all of us. New housing at this location imperils the flow of traffic on Bishop, Johnson, and Sand. They're all too busy now. And what about a water supply? That's going to cost money to pump water up to the 150-foot elevation of this land. I say no, do not rubber stamp this request for annexation that will lead to an unfunctional housing development. Return the request to the planning department and advise them against housing on this land. Please stand up to the staff and tell them that the public for whom you all work is speaking. We do not want this annexation. Thank you.
And Nancy, you'll be happy to hear that it came through just fine. Okay.
I'm glad. Okay.
Yeah, after all those attempts.
I'm glad. Thanks, Glenn.
I don't see Carl Johansson on here yet. Scott. Okay, let's go to Bobby Ryder next because she was on the list earlier, and then we'll go to Scott Cornelius. Okay, so Bobby Ryder, it's your turn. And again, identify yourself when you have 2 minutes. Okay. And looks like she's got her audio there. If you just unmutes, she could start. So Bobby Ryder, it's your turn next. And if not, I'm going to go to Scott Cornelius. Scott's been on
Okay.
there. Bobby, I just heard you start to talk.
Okay, I'm here. Hold on. I
Okay.
see it.
Okay,
How's
and
that?
you've got 2 minutes. Okay.
Well, okay. I would,
State your name and your address, please.
Bobby Ryder, 800 Northwest Greyhound Way, Pullman, Washington. I am here on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Pullman, representing 72 members of the league. And in that instance, and for that reason, I want to know if I still only have 2 minutes, or if I can take 3.
You have 2 minutes.
All right. The notification, all right, I'm going to start over. So the Nelson Partners annexation and pre-zone acreage project is what I wish to talk about. Notifications may have been met minimum requirements, but they were not adequate or clear to the public. Consequently, there was not appropriate consideration given for public input. Public notice signage was not accessible or in the public view. The Planning Commission met to recommend annexation 1 week before Christmas and during a pandemic. The public hearing about a project of this magnitude should have been conducted in late January or later, instead of when citizens were focused on final exams and holiday preparations. The Nelson Partnership is the same developer for Elevate Student Housing, which has been highly controversial. Ownership of the 48 acres was not clear in the planning newsletter, as different titles were used. It is one thing for a city government to strive to be impartial and to rule on the merit of each project, but these projects are intertwined by ownership, and site access impacts must be considered collectively. The League of Women Voters urges the City Council to send the proposal back to the Planning Commission to reconsider the pre-zone R3 density before this property is annexed into the city.
Your 2 minutes is up. Thank you very much. Next, you said that Carl was on. Rob Baker, you said that Carl was there. I think he's now on there with Bobby Ryder. Carl?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, it's your turn for 2 minutes. State your name and your address, please.
I'm Carl Johansson, and I live at 800 Northwest Greyhound Way. I want to echo the previous comments about access, and I appreciate Al Sorensen earlier mentioning the South Bypass that was on the map. It's curious to me that he was thanking for that route to be added to the map as was requested when the South Bypass was on the original map and on the 2013 amended map, upon which the county based its R3 high density residential zone. So to consider this annexation when essentially Bishop Boulevard has already turned into the non-existent South Bypass is ludicrous, because that designation by the county was made under the pretense that there would be a South Bypass. So that access is inadequate. In addition, if there is residential, the only elementary school that was taken into plan when the boundaries were redistricted 3 years ago was that this would be served by Franklin, which is also already at planned capacity. The area for growth that's designated and the additional capacity for bus transportation and so on is in the area that is being developed near Kamiak Elementary, the new school, which has sufficient additional planned capacity for growth. this area was not planned for growth.
Okay, Carl, that's your time is up. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
testimony. Next comes Scott Cornelius. Scott? Okay, well, after Scott. Scott, it's your turn. Okay, so we will go to Scott, and then coming up, I've got Barry Hatch and Lennis Watkins, Christine Oakley, and David Hall. So that's the order. Scott, if you'd unmute, it's your turn.
How's that?
Please identify yourself and your address, please.
Scott Cornelius, 452 Sand Road. This annexation proposal is not an example of land use planning, but is rather an example of no planning, as well as favoritism to an out-of-state student housing developer over those that live here and are affected by your decisions. Effective land use planning includes a study of the effects of the annexation prior to the annexation. Zoning should be with current needs and realities, not a zone put on a map 20 years ago. In my letter I submitted earlier today to the council and RJ Lott, I referenced portions of the comprehensive plan that, while referenced in the finding of facts, are not discussed or are postured to be in favor of the developer. Referring now to the conclusions portions of the findings of facts, paragraph 2 states that the proposed annexation appears to conform to the comprehensive plan, when in fact, my letter points out that it does not. Paragraph 6 of the conclusions of the finding of facts is ludicrous. Quote, it appears the annexation would promote the public health, safety, order, convenience, and general welfare of the citizens of Pullman, unquote. Promote health, promote safety, promote order? How and for whom? Promote convenience? Certainly not for those in the vicinity of the annexation. Promote general welfare? What does that mean? Your action tonight should be to remand this proposal back to the Planning Commission for further study with adherence to goal LU3 of the comprehensive plan, which states, quote, facilitate strong participation in all community land use and development matters, unquote. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We're going to a person who was number 5 on the list, finally got on, Melissa Johnson. So Melissa Johnson, I see you're on the phone. And if you was number 5 on the list, it's your turn. State your name and you have 2 minutes. Melissa Johnson, it's your turn. And again, Melissa Johnson, you need to unmute. There you go. You're open. You ready? Melissa Johnson.
Thank you.
Okay, you state your name and your address, please.
Yes, this is Melissa Johnson at 1100 Northwest Clifford Street. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me a moment to speak this evening. I'm a longtime Pullman resident and also a small business owner. I think that community members often get a reputation of being anti-development, especially when it comes to student housing. I want to say that I am in support of well thought out, smart planning, student housing, low-income housing, and further development throughout our community. That being said, I'm very concerned that the annexation of this land just east of Johnson Road has raised some red flags. Big concerns exist with regard to traffic on Bishop Boulevard, as well as the possibility of doing business with the Nelson Partners. It is my understanding that our community has a complex relationship with this company. Businesses want to develop here, and it is important that we pick and choose who we do business with carefully. We have seen so much growth, development, and new business in this area of town, which is fantastic. I would like to urge the city to please be planning ahead with regard to traffic flow and long-term sustainability of this growth. What are we doing to ensure that these developers are bearing their share of the costs for needed roadway and sidewalk improvements and fiscally contributing to our community as well? And finally, When I talk to others about why I love Pullman so much and the fantastic quality of life here, one of the things that I always share is the absence of roadway traffic. I once lived in a place where you couldn't travel at certain times of day simply due to traffic considerations. I'm not interested in living like that again. So thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for planning ahead and for your diligent hard work to create a sustainable situation for all Pullman residents moving forward. Please do not accept this annexation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Melissa. Next on the line is Barry Hatch. Barry, if you'll unmute, it's your turn. And state your name and your address.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for giving me a chance to talk. This is Barry Hatch at 602 Old Moscow Road. Most of my comments that I was going to make were already referenced tonight by other people. I did send an email earlier today to City Council. Rather than go through that, I just wanted to highlight a couple of items. The first being the inadequacy of the signage. That was also referenced tonight earlier. There was really only one sign visible, and it was at the back end of the property. I think we need a little bit better warning of things going forward. Also, the Planning Commission really, I'm surprised they made such a recommendation, given all the controversy that was generated over the Elevate project and the traffic situation and the access there. I don't see how adding more houses and more development would make that any better. I would recommend that we send it back to the Planning Commission for that and reconsider that zoning recommendation. Just listening to the discussion tonight in City Council, there are some quotes I wanted to point out. First, I think it was Councilwoman Bennett mentioned that transportation comes first. And someone else mentioned we need to look out for the best interest of the citizens. And Councilman Chapman's comments I like most of all when you're talking about that sometimes we push these things off until the site plan, but we find out at that point it's too late. So rather than wait until the site plan to address all these concerns, I think you should do that up front with the Planning Commission and send that back for reconsideration. That's all that I really have to share with you tonight. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the comments. I hope you do reconsider that, at least adding a second access requirement to this development. Thank you again, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you.
Okay, next comes Lennis Watkins. Lennis, it's your turn, and unmute and state your name and address, please.
Okay, hello. This is Lennis Boyer Watts. It's Watts, not Watkins. And I am a long-term resident. I've lived at 1205 Southeast Earthtone Court for the last 31 years. I have the following significant concerns about the proposed annexation of this land and likely construction of a dense housing development. My first concern is that it's just dangerous. This intersection is already a mess. Just take some time to watch drivers from the 3 marijuana shops dart out onto Bishop Boulevard at the same time traffic is moving in both directions. Add this to the traffic coming onto Bishop Boulevard from Johnson Road and turning both directions. This already dangerous situation will be dramatically magnified if this annexation is approved and there are additional housing units put on that land. Number 2, traffic. This year has not been a typical traffic year, but in previous years at times of high traffic, football weekends, parents' weekends, graduation, the traffic can frequently be backed up from the Moscow-Pullman Highway for nearly a mile. Adding potentially thousands of trips from this development would be disastrous. Number 3, parking. The previous proposed Elevate apartment complex had grossly inadequate parking, which would have pushed cars out onto Johnson Road to park or over to the Professional Mall, which already has a full parking lot. Have not seen any plans for the possible development, but as the developers are the same, I would expect the same issue. Number 4, neighborhood congestion. This decision has further reaching consequences than just at that intersection. The increase in traffic and backup of traffic could result in a dramatic increase in traffic in the neighborhoods as people try to avoid the congested intersection. I'm speaking about Clemgard, Sunnymead, and Derby Streets in particular. This congestion would also, as mentioned previously, impede the ambulances, fire.
And Lennis, your time is now up.
Okay.
So thank you. Next, we have two more left to go on the list. Christine Oakley, Rob, do you have Christine in the waiting room? Okay, she needs to redial the number to be on input. And David Hall said earlier that he might just send his remarks and email to us and not do an audio report. So we'll give Christine the right of another 10 seconds to dial in so we can take the input from her. And again, you don't have David Hall on your list, correct, Rob? Okay. We'll give Christine just a couple of more minutes. She was, you did send the message to her how many minutes ago that she needed to dial in another number? Okay. Rob, you still haven't seen it, right? Okay, then that's fine. Okay, well, you've had the message gone out, so I think we've given adequate time on that. So with that, we're going to go back to RJ Lott. We've taken public testimony. We've had the open public hearing at this time. I'm now closing the public hearing at 9:10. So we go now back to RJ Lott.
Yes, was there any questions of the council I could answer or any items to clarify?
Dan Records, and then we'll go to Al.
RJ, we've heard from several people tonight and seen in lots of the emails that have come in. And I always feel like when we have these types of issues come before council, there's a lot of issues that are dictated to us about the procedure that are dictated by state law that we don't really have the ability to control at the city level. And I know you mentioned some of these things at the beginning during your presentation, but some of those things I'm wondering if you can just reiterate on the issue of the traffic study and the idea that what we're talking about tonight is just the annexation to bring this into the city's jurisdiction, because right now the property is in the county, and if the developer went forward right now under the county regulations, the tax revenue from that development would go to the county and not to the city, and the city would not have any kind of opportunity to provide further input along as the development proceeds. So what we're talking about tonight is bringing this property into the city so that the city has that tax revenue in the future, and the city has a say in how this development goes forward through our comprehensive plan and through our procedures at the city. Is that kind of an accurate statement of what we're talking about tonight?
Yes, that's correct. So let me clarify a few of your earlier questions in your statement. First of all, annexations are exempt from SEPA by RCW. So there is no mitigating measures included in that process. Secondly, a site-specific development proposal, which would include the number of units, internal road circulation, access points to public right-of-way, that would be accompanied with a traffic study that could provide those mitigating measures at some point, such as at the intersection of Johnson and Bishop. So once we get those specifics, then we can evaluate as staff the requirements of the traffic study and what we could do to mitigate the impacts in the neighborhood and throughout the city.
And so those types of things are not available to us to add as provisions with an annexation at this point, are they?
Correct.
Thank you.
So, yeah, you're welcome.
And again, very good clarification, because that's exactly what we're trying to do tonight. We're trying to conform to state law. Al is next, then we'll go to Nathan. Al?
Okay. Yeah, I was going to go right along with what Dan was saying there, so enough of that. But I would like to address just briefly the signage in this particular situation. You know, RJ, you and I had a little discussion that the sign as we have it now in the city of Pullman is to be posted at the edge of the property, which we did. Now, I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong, but I do think that we are going to need to address this situation for future things in town. And I've had a question about the size of our signs and that type of thing anyway, but I understand the concerns from the citizens of our area about the public notice. We did everything that we were supposed to do. I think we've tried pretty hard with it. Now, would I have liked to seen something up at the edge of Johnson Road? Absolutely. But I don't know how we can hold you know, we did what we were supposed to do. We weren't going to put it on someone else's property. The signage could be better. I think we can work on that in the future. So I wanted to just mention that, since Dan already mentioned what I was going to say about what we can right now do and what we can't. This is about the annexation of the property into the city. We're not given an okay to do anything on this property. If we don't give the okay to do it on the property, they've just got property inside the city now. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and if I could, let me comment on the signs. As you mentioned, we discussed this a few days ago. Posting the signs on the subject property was a challenge because there's no frontage on a public right-of-way. So seeing it as you were to drive by or walk on a sidewalk would have been difficult. I don't want to say regardless of the sign of the size of the signs, but with the size that we do use, yeah, it was a challenge. As to answer your concerns about the size of the sign, we try to be consistent from one application to the next and not use varying signs. So we try to be fair throughout, whether it's an annexation or a subdivision or anything else that would require a public hearing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know what we said, and I'm glad that you're saying it right now, that so people understand where we're at with the signage.
Yeah,
Thank
and it was required that staff place 3 signs on the property, which we did. So we are trying our best to notify within the standards that the city has set forth.
Plus, you also had the other notification too that you was required. So
yes,
Nathan, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. RJ, thank you for explaining a lot of this. It is a difficult, you know, the annexation is difficult. I've seen this a number of different times. I've spoken about this with other areas that we've annexed where I know it's just about annexation, but it also, what it comes with is the future expectation that we're going to need to run services out to these areas. And that increases cost to the city, causes disruption. You know, the traffic is a huge concern. We talked about this when Elevate was being discussed. I know I was on the council then. I think several of us were. You know, and I think what some of the citizens, and maybe I'm speaking in error, are concerned about is it's a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing where, you know, we'll annex it and then suddenly, you know, this big development will go in and we do not have the infrastructure there, plain and simple. Now, I did want to ask you, RJ, about this discussion of sending it back to planning. How is your feeling on that? I'd like your opinion on that because I do understand it was brought up very poignantly that the meetings were held right around Christmas and it was kind of a chaotic time. So could you speak a little bit about sending it back to planning? What are your feelings?
Yeah, so the city council definitely has that option to send this item back to the planning commission. So let me clarify their responsibilities that they took on in December. There was no public hearing with the intent to annex level. The public hearing is with the city council, which is what we're having tonight. So there would be no opportunity for the public to submit comments because the appropriate time is at this point. So having the planning commission taking another look at it, they did that originally in December, and it met the criteria at that time. So it's definitely the option of the council to send this back to the planning commission, and that's certainly within your powers.
But what, just a question here is, what would that accomplish since they met the rules and it's before the council, and it's now the council's decision to make the next point, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So it's within the criteria at that time, and it's been consistent with previous annexations that the city has done in recent years. So with trying to be consistent throughout the process and being equitable and fair to the applicant, the planning commission went through their deliberation and looked at the criteria and ultimately recommended approval of the annexation.
Okay. Other comments? Back to Al.
I want to draw Laura in here for a moment because I have a question. Laura, there you are. Okay, so when these decisions are being made by the planning commission or city council, we have to look at what is happening right now, which is a request to annex property into the city. Am I off base saying that we can't sit here and say, oh, well, they're planning to do this there? We don't know that for sure. I mean, we can assume, but we have to make our decisions on what the request is now. Am I off base on that, or can you help me with that a little?
That's correct. You make your decision based on the petition for annexation, and that's all that you have before you is the petition for annexation. One alternative that the council does have in this type of an annexation petition is making a requirement that you have a finding that the pre-zone of R3 is adequate. You do have the ability under the statute to separately require actual zoning of the property as compared to just accepting the pre-zone application. RJ might want to chime in on that. That's really the only thing I see that is anything additional to what's already been proposed that you would send back to the planning commission. So I guess you'd want to, if you were talking about sending something back to the planning commission, you'd want to tell them what to look at. Because right now, all you have is an annexation petition under 35A.
And that's what they've done at the planning commission, is look at that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Go to Dan Records, and then we'll go to Ann.
Maybe this is a question for Laura or RJ, I guess, but if we did want to, generally accept the annexation, but then separate out the zoning, what would that look like? Would that go back to the planning commission to look at the zoning, and would that include a traffic study or anything like that?
RJ, you want to take that?
Yeah, so the pre-zone, and maybe I should have included this in the staff report, was determined back in 2013 by ordinance of the city council. So to change that, it would also take another ordinance. Now, I am not clear, and this maybe should go back to Laura, is that the applicant submitted their request for annexation under the notion that the zoning would be R3 as it has been pre-zoned since 2013. So at some point there may be some vesting with that application. And Lori, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn. So to change that now, that may require some additional, I don't know, legal review to see if that would be adequate to change the pre-zone after we have an application under the R3. Excuse me. So that may take some additional legal review.
Yeah, what the statute says you can do after, as part of your public hearing and part of your determination, is whether you will accept, reject, or geographically modify the proposed annexation, whether it shall require the simultaneous adoption of a proposed zoning regulation if such proposal has been prepared and filed for the area to be annexed. So yeah, RJ's right. You would need to have a proposal from the property owner that has submitted the petition in order to consider actually rezoning. So I apologize, I misspoke in saying that would be a consideration, because it does have to be part of the application. So yeah, I would agree with RJ that he's vested in what the current pre-zone is for the property. I guess I don't want to use the word vested, because vested applies to a development application and you don't have a development application. So the zoning can be changed by the city council, just like it could change the zoning elsewhere in the city.
But they've
But not
applied,
in this process.
right. They've applied for this annexation with it being zoned R3.
Yes.
And passed by city council. So, okay.
Yes.
Dan, were you satisfied with the answer you got before we go to Ann?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure what the procedure was there.
And Parks.
Thank you. I support the annexation in that, for one reason, that then the city and the city council would have not control, but we would have a voice in how this land is developed, and then therefore it could go back to zoning changes or what have you. And we always have the ability to reject projects. But having said that, I think we've heard clearly tonight, we've read clearly, and probably had some other input too, that the residents in the area and in our city are very uncomfortable with the owner, who owns this property and what they've proposed before. And I don't know what to do about that, but I've spoken with some staff and they just said, well, if the city doesn't annex it, then it's county property and their rules are different than ours. And then anything could happen in there and we don't have any control over it. So that kind of resonates with me, but I also do definitely hear these voices that we've heard tonight and that we've read. And I am not comfortable with the R3 zoning either, but I'm not sure how realistic it is that we could change that, or what that, I know we just talked about a little bit what it would involve, but I think that would have to be considered. And then the things like, once a project is proposed, traffic studies, bike, pedestrian accessibility, all those sorts of things. But it almost feels like by then, as some people alluded to, we would be sort of dealing with these things after the fact in a way. And that I can see why people are uncomfortable, and it's an uncertain feeling, to be sure. But I do think that the annexation issue tonight in front of us has to do with, do we want to have a voice in that in the future or not? I guess that's what it comes down to for me, just if we're looking at tonight's issue. Thank you.
Pat Wright.
Sorry, Mayor, I think Eileen had her hand up before I did, so.
Okay, we'll go to Eileen and then we'll go to Pat.
Sorry, I've been slow on the button here tonight. First of all, as we've noted with a lot of technical difficulties in getting some people heard, I really want to thank those who wrote in. I think this is one of the few silver linings of our COVID situation, is it has encouraged people to write in to the process. And I really appreciate that, because I can read your comments, I can print them out and highlight them and read them again. And I get a much better sense of who you are and what your concerns are, and your analysis and some of your real technical expertise. And so I really appreciate all of those who wrote in. I read every single one of them. And please, in the future, when we have to wrestle with things like this, write in detail, because we will be reading them. This does make me very uncomfortable. And I think one of our callers kind of described this as a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think that was pretty apt. As we linked it to the sidewalk, and this caller also linked it to the sidewalk discussion we had earlier. We need to revisit the 2013 rezone or pre-zone. A lot has changed in our world since 2013. A lot has changed at our university. A lot has changed with SEL. We need to revisit those pre-zones. I've always been in favor of increasing, even from where we are now, the urban growth boundary, but not just fling open the doors and just let whatever happen. And we're probably going to be, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to vote on this yet, but I do want to put everyone on notice, residents, staff, city, my fellow council members, that we need to watch this very, very carefully and see where these people go with this, and maybe consider rezoning this thing. That'll be a big brouhaha without a doubt. But I don't like the way this is going, and I don't know that that serves our city. I don't know that it serves our region. We have a waterway there. We have Mary's Park right there. All those things are of grave concern to me, and I realize that we're kind of painted into a corner tonight on this. But we're going to be watching this, and we want contributing developers and we can look around our community, and there are plenty of them who have done great things in our community. And we need to watch this very, very carefully. And again, thanks to all of you who so eloquently took your time to write in, call in, and put up with all this mess that we kind of ended up with here tonight. Thank you.
Pat, your turn.
Thank you, Glenn. I would echo just about everything that Eileen just addressed. And the first point being that it is a totally different world today from 2013. Marijuana was not legalized in 2013. And just that event and the number of retail establishments in that intersection has greatly impeded the traffic congestion and safety issues that people referenced. So I don't know, given those circumstances today, if R3 pre-zone would have been something that we would have approved. I think it really does warrant reviewing that, or reviewing what the procedure is to relook at that. I think that's an important piece of this whole, as Eileen called it, mess that we've got. And I certainly thank everyone for their input tonight. I appreciate everyone's concern. Being a resident in some close proximity to the area that they're talking about, personally, I have my own concerns about that as well. I know that isn't entering into what our decision is here tonight, but as a citizen of Pullman, it is a concern. And so for that reason, I share a lot of the concerns that were addressed. But again, we're just looking at the annexation piece of it and not what the development of the area in question is going to do. So I guess if our only option is to relook at what we need to do to change that pre-zone, maybe that's what we need to do. So that's what I would throw out there.
Okay, Nathan, then we'll go to Dan. Nathan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the callers mentioned smart growth, and this is something that I've been looking at as Pullman has grown so quickly. Is that this is very telling. We saw it originally with Evolve on Main, rising concerns about how growth is occurring in Pullman, and continuing to grow out and out and out. And we need to be really considering how much of this ag land that we're gobbling up into the city, and how do we want the growth to occur. And I do trust our staff, but this really concerns me, and especially in that area. It's already been said 2013 was a completely different, it seems like a totally different city, a different area. Now I'd like to ask RJ, so my question is, if we're looking at considering a rezone, how would we go about that? Would we need to reject? I mean, I'm just asking, reject this and then go back to a consideration of a rezone, or do we send it approve, go back to meeting? I mean, what's the process in that?
Yeah, that's we could take a look through our comp plan process, which we've got going on, starting with the Planning Commission tomorrow evening. We could look through our downtown plans, which would soon follow that. So there's some avenues that we could look at, some of the studies that have been done recently to take a look at the different pre-zones and adjust them accordingly. So if the council was interested in that, ultimately we would need to do an amendment to the existing ordinance, so that would essentially notify further developers that wish to annex what their upcoming zoning may be.
Nathan, do you have any more questions on that?
I'm just trying to understand exactly how that would go with the current, what we're voting on tonight. I hear other council members saying, looking at that zoning, the pre-zoning that we have, but right now we have a discussion and a vote on the current zone to be annexed. So that would seem like it totally knocks out that possibility of reconsidering that zoning, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Laura, do you want to add some comments on that one? You have to unmute.
Sure. So council member, if the council voted to annex this property, it would come in as R3 zoned property. Like RJ pointed out, you're actually in the process of updating your comprehensive plan, and that process kicks off and starts tomorrow night. So that is something that they could make a recommendation to you on in the future. But back to that vesting comment that RJ mentioned before, if a developer submits a development application when the property is zoned R3, then they vest in that R3 zone. So if your concern is about the zoning and providing an opportunity to have the Planning Commission look at the zoning for that area, your only option would be to deny the petition.
Thank you for that, Laura. And Art. Thank you.
Okay. And Dan Record, you're next.
So RJ, can you confirm, so the property is currently in the county. Is the county's zone for that property R3 currently?
I'm sorry, I don't know what the county has it currently zoned. So I don't know what their zoning would allow at this point.
Okay, because that's something that the developer, when he was on earlier, he stated that, and I just wanted to know if we had confirmation of that. Because if that's true, I mean, if we denied, the petition to annex tonight, he could turn around tomorrow and submit a development application to the county, and then we would be out of there'd be nothing that we would be involved in at that point. And then he would be invested with that R3 zone with the county. And so, I mean, really what we're talking about is, do we want the city of Pullman to be involved in this process of development as it goes forward or not? Because I don't think we have much of a choice. If we want to be involved, then I'd say we would need to go forward with the annexation at this point. Because otherwise it's in the developer's, he's coming to the city to request the annexation to be involved with the city in negotiating how the development goes forward. And if we say no tonight, I don't think there's anything to stop him from going forward with the county. And then we don't have a say in that process going forward. It would be up to the county to listen and hold the public hearings, and the residents with concerns would have to go through the county process at that point and not the city's process. So I agree with Ann at this point. I think I'm in favor of the annexation going forward, because all of the concerns that we've heard tonight about the traffic, about the impact on the roads and the infrastructure in the area needing to be developed, those are things that still need to be addressed at future points in the development process. And at this point, we can't really put those conditions on the annexation because there is no specific site development proposal currently. So, I mean, in order for us to have those decision points in the future, I think we need to annex this property and go forward with that right now.
Okay, Ann, you're next, and then we'll go back to Nathan.
My question also was about how does the county have it zoned right now? So that was addressed. Thank you.
Okay, Nathan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will just say that with the developer coming forth with the current zone of R3, I think it's pretty clear the direction that will go in. The Whitman County, we have a fairly good relationship working with Whitman County, and I am not sure about the zoning. I think RJ moving forward with comprehensive plan, looking, and this is a side note, looking at our boundaries, at what is zoned around us, is a very important measure to look at for research, if nothing else. But if my fellow council members are saying, obviously this is not in the same manner as it was in 2013, and we move forward with it, I think we know what we're going to get. So I understand the comments from council member Records and Parks regarding this, but it's pretty clear what we're going to get. I believe rather to look at this, I don't believe in the annexation personally, so that we can relook at that zoning. And I have faith in our county as a partner to not lock us in on that boundary. So we've gone over it before, and we have a fairly good working relationship with them. That's my opinion.
I'm just going to make one comment. When you say a good working relationship with the county, one of the reasons why we have the urban growth area is because of cluster housing, which stopped our growth in one area. That was a county decision, and that stopped all growth in that particular area. And I really significantly doubt the county is going to be concerned about traffic at Johnson and Bishop, which we would lose control on. That's just my opinion. Brandon, you're next.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something. I keep hearing pre-zone for R3. What's the actual zone at this moment?
Are you referring to the Whitman County zoning?
Yeah, I guess so. Yes.
Yeah, let me look that up here. I'm working on it right now. Sorry, I don't know the Whitman County zoning.
Isn't it agriculture?
Probably just agriculture. I just wanted to confirm. I would guess it's agriculture, but I don't know. I think every map I've seen is with our pre-zone, so.
Yeah, it's a little slow this evening in their maps on their
That's
website.
Right, so am I. And I don't know. I'm not sure if all land has even been zoned by Whitman County, but I don't know.
I'm sure that it is. Yeah, I'm sorry that their maps
We can
are
move
loading.
on, and then RJ
Yeah.
can come back. Not a problem.
Well, if it's currently ag land, wouldn't that indicate that it is zoned agricultural or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. For instance, there's agriculture uses within city limits, but it's not zoned agriculture.
So you can't find it right now, RJ? Is that it?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get the county map to come up, and it's quite slow this evening.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Yes, I'll go back to Eileen.
It seems like we have some elements of just plain facts that are missing here. And if we've got difficulty getting the county map up, is there any chance that we can postpone this vote tonight until we can get some further information? I'm still not sparkling clear on, because we keep using the word annexation petition and then development application. These are, and due to the lateness of the hour, is there any chance that we can postpone this until another date?
I'm looking at Laura, who I saw
Yeah.
earlier nodding her head. Yes.
Yes, you're not required to take action tonight. You're simply required to hold the public hearing.
So we can table it.
Well, if you're going to table it, you would table it to a date certain.
And the next meeting we have coming up would be the 27th, but I think that's a pretty full agenda. Mike Urban, you see your hand.
Yeah, I was going to jump in. The next meeting is the 27th. If this was tabled until that meeting, this would probably, we can move a few things around and for expediency, but this would fill that meeting up completely.
So actually what you could do, because you don't have any type of motion on the table to actually table, what you could do is just simply ask staff to come back with additional information in the future. And then you're not having to table anything. You're not required to take action on the ordinance that staff proposed.
Okay. Eileen.
That would be my recommendation, that we reschedule this and until we can get better information, further information, and continue to hear from the community within the boundaries of the quasi-judicial situation. I understand, Laura, about the technical difference between tabling and postponing, and so I got that one. I've been lectured on that several times
And
by many people way smarter than me. So,
tabling can terminate it completely if it's not worded exactly correctly. So.
Right, and then there's indefinitely postponed and all kinds of other things. But so if we could just not do this tonight and have our city administrator put it on the calendar for the 27th, I would be much more comfortable with that. I'm feeling a little. I'm very, very torn by this, and I really want us to make a good decision. And I feel like we're right on the verge of not making the right decision for maybe the wrong reasons, or I'm trying not to be clever here, but yeah, I would prefer that we move this to a different meeting.
Rest of the council.
Pardon me.
Go ahead, Ann.
Excuse me. Should we do we need to clarify what we would like staff to come back with?
Yes.
Yes.
So you need to find out.
Certainly the zoning piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any additional information aside from what Whitman County has it zoned as now? And the pre-zone, some additional questions on that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Dan? Dan, I think you were going to say something.
No.
Okay.
I think it was Nathan.
Nathan, I saw your hand.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, definitely on a, the procedure to look at the rezoning as well. I would like to understand that a little bit more, looking at the pre-zones and so on. So I don't know if that would be possible, but.
Okay. Ann, go back to you.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. Somebody mentioned earlier that if we voted not to annex, well, I guess we're not voting. I guess my question is, could the way the land is now, can the applicants move forward with the development proposal, or do they need to wait until we either annex or don't annex? Does that make sense? So does our delaying this also delay that process, or can they go ahead with the county?
That depends on the zoning at the county, I would assume.
Right. Okay. You're right. Okay.
But they could withdraw their petition, right?
Yeah, yes, they could always withdraw and then develop with the county at any time.
That's what I was asking. Okay, thank you.
Which could very much impact the city.
Right.
As we have learned before. So now we've got it basically rescheduled for April 27th, the next meeting.
Councilmember Sorensen has his hand up, Mayor.
Okay. Al? Al, your turn.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you there for a second. As much as this might make council members feel uncomfortable, I think we have to think about the process here and what is being asked. Okay. They're asking to annex property into the city. And if we don't have a legitimate reason to pass that, then there could be other ramifications. And I totally believe that this is in our, boundary of annexing into the city anyway. And we had pre-zoned it for, R3, because that's, if you look what's below this, you have apartments below it, you have commercial below it, you don't have residential up there in regards to, R2 or R1 housing. But my point here is, the reason I wanted to even say anything was, you can't look past what this one request is. Okay. The time for that, I believe, is after this, when they come back and request to do whatever they're going to do there. And I'm just trying to make that clear to everybody. And I think we've heard that multiple times.
Pat Wright.
So I just have a question. So, and this is a conditional, should we go forward with the annexation and it's zoned R3, and then the developer comes back with a plan, then that plan goes to the Planning Commission for review, evaluation, all of those kinds of things. Is that correct? Is that how the process works?
Yes, that would be generally correct.
The plan would get a public hearing, is that correct? Or not?
Yeah, if you were going to redo the rezone or the pre-zone, yes, it would require a public hearing for an ordinance change.
But
well, no, if the development were to come to review.
Oh, no, it would not require a public hearing.
So they could propose anything that would not require a public hearing.
Right. So if it's within the land use chart for R3 zoning, it would be a development by right and would not require a public hearing.
But it would require a site plan review, an environmental impact statement, and probably a traffic study.
Correct. All three would be correct.
And then at that point, would that be for staff's input on requiring any additional things like points of entry to the property and things like that?
Yeah, so it could be a wide variety of mitigating measures for traffic or other issues.
And that's been my point in my comments, is that is the stage of the process where those things come into play. And for this stage of the process, we don't really have the ability to put any of those types of things in place or review those types of things because we're just talking about the annexation. All of the development things, those are things that require a specific site plan to be, the developer to put forth a plan to be evaluated, because there's nothing to evaluate right now. And so all of those things would come later in the process. And I understand that's very frustrating for the residents to have to listen to that kind of process argument, but that's how the state sets up how we have to do these things. And we have to operate within that, and we have to be consistent from application to application, because if we're inconsistent, then that opens us up for those applicants, for those developers to say that we're not treating them the same as we've treated other developers. And then that's where we get into trouble with, potential lawsuits and things like that can bind the city up for years in litigation. And so we have to be very consistent with how we handle these things, and we have to stick to the process as it's laid out for us. And this stage of the process, we're just talking about the annexation. It's those later stages where all of those, which I think are very valid concerns about the traffic and infrastructure that have been raised tonight, those things are to be addressed at that later stage of the process, not at this stage of the process.
And to clarify a little bit further, there would be no public hearing, but the public could comment, and they're welcome to during any SEPA process. So there is that opportunity for public input at that level. And I did get the Whitman County map to pop up finally. And this location is zoned Cluster Residential Opportunity Zone. I don't know exactly what that means, but that is Whitman County's zoning for this location.
Oh, just the word cluster. I mean, that's the reason that we finally got a tax sharing proposal that took us about 10 years to get the thing together so we could limit the cluster housing that would also impact our city. Nathan, I saw your hand.
Yeah, well, I'm glad, RJ, you found that. That's good. Doesn't really explain what that means unless they have a definition on there. But something again, and I completely understand what Councilmember Records and Councilmember Sorensen are discussing about the process, that it's only discussing the annexation, but I will also, again, explain that the current annexation is for an R3 zoned land. And so no matter what is decided, that's what will be going on in there. So if we choose to annex that R3 land, and correct me if I'm, stepping out of line here, RJ, but that's exactly what we're going to be annexing in.
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's what the developer is going to be looking at, period.
That's correct.
So that's all from me.
Eileen.
RJ, can you, well, I know what my definition of a cluster is, but can you say that again, what that zoning is from the county?
Well, according to the map I have in front of me, it's Cluster Residential Opportunity Zone.
Do we have any idea what that,
I'd have,
how would the developer work within that?
I'd have to do some research with the Whitman County code and take a little deeper look. I'm not too familiar with Whitman County and what they require or don't require, especially with this zone. So I'd have to do some research on that regard.
I feel that's something I need to know to take this.
Okay, Dan Records, I saw your hand.
I was just gonna say what you said previously, Mayor, about the agreement with the county, the city and the county have on the tax sharing district. I'm wondering if because that should have eliminated some of the cluster housing designations. And so I'm just wondering if this is a remnant on the map that is not accurate, or if this is outside of the tax sharing zone. But that's something that I would think that I would like to hear clarification on from RJ at a future meeting.
I can tell you that near the airport, we had the cluster housing had a deadline, and we had all kinds of proposals for cluster housing on Airport Road that had to be done. And then there was a deadline that they had to meet that deadline. Now, I don't know if cluster housing would still be because I don't think that's approved any longer. You've made a good point there, Dan. So even though it says cluster, I think that has expired because we definitely had the land rush near the airport under that cluster. So
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, and you may be correct, especially under the tax sharing agreement. It may have changed. So this map I may be looking at may be slightly outdated in that regard.
Mayor, I did the same thing that RJ did and pulled up the map, but the tax sharing agreement does say that they cannot develop the cluster residential. They can't approve clustered residential developments, which are single family homes on large non-urban lots. So like 10 acres or more, 5 acres, actually 5 acres or more. But the area that's within the tax sharing area and that is adjacent to service from city water and sewer, they're not allowed under the tax sharing agreement to grant clustered residential development within the tax sharing area. So it might still be zoned that, but by interlocal agreement, they're not allowed to permit it. But those are single family houses, so 4 houses on 20 acres.
Okay. Muddy the water a little bit further.
Yeah, the R3 pre-zone is a city designation. It is not a county designation.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Al Sorensen.
So the developer of this property applied for annexation to the city of Pullman on the premise, or actually the code that we've already said that this is a R3 pre-zone area. Correct?
Yes,
so
that's correct.
That's what he expects the zone to be.
Yes.
Because that's what we've already passed by city council.
Yes.
Okay.
When there was an inquiry, we told him the R3 was the pre-zone, which matches the ordinance from 2013.
Brandon, were you just moving your hand or did you want to? Okay. So we can sit and look at each other or we can make a decision. We've heard some good arguments to do something, and we've also heard some arguments to take it up on the next meeting in April 27th. So where are we at? Otherwise, we'll be here all night. Okay, Al?
So it sounds like some council members would like to have a little further information. I don't know that pushing this off 2 weeks to make a decision is a bad thing to do. So that's what I would suggest, is that we go ahead, get the additional information asked for by the council members. And if it fits in the next meeting on the 27th, so be it. I would not say table it. I would just say try to get it in the next meeting.
Okay. And I've seen heads nod for that.
I agree.
And
I think there's just so much uncertainty. It's palpable how uncertain we are about this. So that makes sense to me.
It will be rescheduled, and we will not have to do another public hearing because we have done the public hearing for that, and we've closed the public hearing. So I checked earlier from Rob, there was no new business to be brought up tonight. And since we'll have this meeting continue with that, I now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved. Oh, second.
Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Thanks,
10:03.
everybody. Great
Thanks,
discussion.
everybody.
Thanks,
Really good.
everybody. Thanks.